Let's go. Welcome to J Brothers Sports Review. This week, we're going to go look at what happened in week 4 of the NFL, our thoughts on what happened each game and how they affect what we saw in fantasy, and also even how they affected our personal teams. My main league, I'm now 4-0, and my other league, I am 2-2. How's your teams doing in fantasy?
2-2.
Both in, you have how many teams? One?
I'm 1-3 and 2, and then 2-2. 2-2 in my main one.
Okay.
I need Christian McCaffrey back.
Yeah, I hear you. And we're gonna go ahead and give our other thoughts in general as well, and some of the news that happened this week. Also on today's episode, stick around. We have something special that's gonna happen at the end, so make sure you stick around for that. You're gonna enjoy it. So let's jump right into it. We can go now into Thursday night, where the Jaguars lose to the Bengals 21-24, moving Jacksonville to 0-4 and Cincinnati to 3-1. I remember watching the first half of this game, and then the Jaguars jumped out to an early lead, which I was kind of surprised by. What was your thoughts early on in this game?
James Robinson.
Yeah.
Finally, another back-to-back good game from him. And so for fantasy, for me, I have him, so that was good.
Yeah, same. And we've been saying it every podcast, get James Robinson going, get him going. And again, you know what? They jumped out to the early lead. They were doing a good job. We didn't expect that from them. However, the second half was a different story. Then we saw Joe Burrow and what he did, and he just basically carved them up the rest of the game. And then also the Urban Meyer, some came out this week where, I don't know, maybe use some better judgment there.
But you know what, though? I just want to say this. I know they're making a big deal out of it.
Well, let's tell the audience what had happened. So there's a video going around of Urban Meyer after the game. He's in a bar, bar club, and he's got some young girl grinding up on him. And then everybody's just roasting him, saying, "This, you're 0-4. What are you doing? You're celebrating like you're winning." And so what's your thoughts?
Okay, first of all, he's a married man.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
That's wrong. But I'm rather he be out there with some young chicks than some dudes. All right. I mean, we live in a time where had I seen that,
oh man,
it might have been crazier. But who am I to judge?
Yeah. Well, either way, it's funny. He's not watching film, or he's watching something else. But it's let's go ahead and talk about the game. I mean, that's I don't think Urban Meyer may not finish the season as the head coach. But so again, so the first half it ended 14-7. No, sorry, 14-0. The Jaguars were up. Yes. And then and in that first half, so the Jaguars defense looked like they were stopping Joe Burrow, doing enough against the run. Again, James Robinson was going off. Trevor Lawrence, what did you see from him?
He looked better, but just still not enough. He has no touchdowns. He didn't throw any picks this time, which is a good thing to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, just not enough in the second half.
Yeah. And so we'll get into the stats. Trevor Lawrence went 17 for 24 for 204 yards. As you alluded to, no touchdowns, but also no picks. And as you mentioned, again, James Robinson, 18 carries, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also added 1 catch, although he lost 2 yards on that catch, but he had 2 targets thrown to him. I just want to expound on James Robinson. Again, we said it last time. He has a full season under his belt where he's the bell cow, and it worked. He was great last year. So again, I don't know why they drafted a running back so high. And if they want to be successful, just give the ball to James Robinson.
And one thing I noticed with James Robinson watching that game is he looked frustrated a bit at times. Just his body language when he would get up off the field, after players, like kind of just he didn't seem happy. And that could be due to the coach. Now, what Urban did with those chicks, he's not taking football, the NFL serious right now. And maybe James Robinson, the guy who is a bell cow, could see that, this coach over here is just messing around. So
yeah, I think maybe Urban Meyer wants to. Maybe he enjoys the college life a little too much. Maybe he's not ready for the professional life.
Yeah, he still wants to party in the clubs.
Also, we got to mention it. Trevor Lawrence did rush for 8 times for 36 yards and a touchdown. So he did get a touchdown on the ground. Let's look at what happened as far as receiving. The guy who led by far in targets was Laviska Shenault. And what happened to Marvin Jones this game? Because before this, it was Marvin Jones. Seems like they went less his way.
Yeah. I feel like it's just the scheme that the Bengals were playing. It just left Shenault more open. And DJ Chark had got injured.
Yeah.
So I think they were able to shift more attention onto Marvin Jones.
Yeah, he was out that game.
Yeah. So then it did open Shenault. So, but I expect Marvin Jones to still be the guy.
Yeah. And Dan Arnold, the guy they just traded for, he had 2 targets for 29 yards. So as he slowly works into things, he's going to get the ball a lot more. So he's a guy to look at. Maybe put him on the watch list. Maybe if you got a deep bench, add him as a speculative ad for now. Other than that, Tavon Austin had 3 targets. He only caught 1 for 8 yards. So other than that, I mean, until we see more from this offense, we're gonna just standoffish. So the defense, no interceptions, but they did have 1 sack from Adam Gotsis. And the kicker, again, 0 field goal, 0 attempts, but 3 for 3 for the extra points. All right, let's go ahead and now look at the Bengals side of things. So Joe Burrow, it was a tale of 2 halves, right?
Yeah.
Joe Burrow. So the first half, they were struggling. They couldn't get much going. But opening in the third quarter, he opened up with a pass, a drive down the field, 4 plays, 69 yards, but a pass to CJ Uzoma for a 22-yard touchdown. Now, Uzoma had a game, right?
Yeah, he did. He tore it up.
He had 5 receptions for 95 yards on 6 targets and 2 touchdowns. However, this may be the best he will do all season, but not to say that he might not keep it going. So CJ Uzoma might be a good pickup as well. So we'll talk about Burrow. So he went 25 of 32 for 348 and 2 touchdowns. So that yardage looks nice. He didn't really rush. He rushed 3 times, but only got 4 yards. So looks like he's the pocket pass type. And then again, as we mention every week, Joe Mixon putting Cincinnati on his back. He had 16 carries for 67 yards and a touchdown. The next closest was Samaje Perine for three carries for 7 yards.
Mixon got injured this game.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that. So Mixon did get injured this game. So if you're gonna look at any running back, Samaje looks like the next guy up.
Or if you were able to, we're talking running backs with injuries. Monty Montgomery got injured. So if you could pick up
David Montgomery, yeah.
David Montgomery.
Yeah.
So if you could pick up what's his name, the backup Williams over there.
Yeah. And my one thing about as far as backups, because we saw this last week or this past week with the Carolina backfield with Hubbard.
Yep.
We don't know how the splits will go, and we'll go into that game, but we don't know how the splits will go. So you may want to pick up Samaje.
Yeah, if you have Mixon too.
Yeah,
you definitely want to
handcuff him, and then also let Samaje ride on the bench for a week, see how the splits go, and if he don't get the bulk of the carries, maybe check out the other guy that does. But again, Tyler Boyd, boy, 11 targets, 9 receptions for 118 yards, and even the rookie Jamar Chase had 9 targets. He caught 6 for 77. So their other receiver, he's continuing to be out. T. Higgins.
Yeah,
it's really opening up things for Boyd and Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
So it looks like both of those guys may be guys to own, especially in PPR. And then again, we're just going to keep an eye on the tight end CJ Uzoma, see if he can replicate it. 'Cause maybe one of those games, one of the games that you have once in a lifetime. Their defense, who I actually thought would have done a lot better, they had no picks and they only had 1 sack.
Yeah, I thought they would do better.
Yeah, especially with the way the Jaguars offense was playing. So, and we were talking about Cincinnati, being 2-1 coming into this game, and also they had just defeated Pittsburgh. So we thought, was it? So maybe we're seeing now that it's just Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh is struggling.
Yep.
And not so much the Cincinnati defense. Not to say that they're bad, but as far as that last game, Looks like Pittsburgh, man, they're having a tough time. All right, so I think that wraps it up for this game. We can go ahead and look at who the Jaguars take on next. They'll be taking on the Tennessee Titans, who are 2-2, and Jags are 0-4 again. And the Bengals, let me see. Give me a second. The Bengals will be taking on the Green Bay Packers, who are on fire after week 1. We're now 3-1. Now both these teams are 3-1. So as far as records, that should be a good game. But I feel like we know that who should win that game, Green Bay.
Yep.
All right, so let's go ahead now and go to the next game. Tennessee Titans. Am I reading this correctly? They lose to the New York Jets.
Yep,
24-27.
Yep, that's right.
So this moves Tennessee to now 2-2, and the Jets to 1-3. Were you able to catch any of this game here?
I watched a little bit of it, and they didn't have AJ Brown or Julio. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if I think they thought they would just come in here and just win with King Henry. Because he did ball out.
Oh, yeah, King Henry.
But, I felt like Tannehill needed more help in the passing game. And Son looked good.
Son looked kind of ill, son. So, King Henry, real quick, I just want to sing his praises, give him flowers. We haven't seen a running back like King Henry. Man, I want to go back to the days of Emmitt Smith, LaDainian even LaDainian Tomlinson. He was able to like mix in the pass catching quite a bit, and LaDainian was one of the first to do that. Him and Brian Westbrook, but man, King Henry, we haven't seen a dominant back like this. In generations. He's a generational player, is what I'm saying.
Yep.
But let's get into it. So, interestingly, this game started with Tennessee up 9-0. In the second quarter, but then just before the half, the Jets were able to score a touchdown with Michael Carter. And then the second half was just a battle all the way down to the fourth quarter. And you know, went into OT as we saw. Tannehill scored that last minute touchdown there. And then it went into OT. So this was definitely a really good game for the Jets. They got into it. They're competitive. So, hey, respect to the Jets. And it's good to see that, you know, they finally had something.
Yeah, and if you're the Jets, you got to be happy because there was a couple seconds left in overtime, and the kicker from the Titans missed the field goal.
Oh, yeah.
And that would have tied it. And then it probably would have ultimately ended a tie game because there was only a few seconds left. But if you're a Jets, you got to be, you know, really happy for the Titans kicker for missing that because, you know, you actually get a W here instead of a tie game.
No, I haven't looked at the rules lately, but are double overtime is done in the NFL?
I don't believe so, no.
All right, well, yeah, it may have went to a double OT. You know,
I think that's in the playoffs.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Not in regular season.
Got it. Okay. So, yeah, you're right. Could have ended in a tie, which would have been funny for the Jets to see 0-3-1. But yeah, let's get into the stats. So, Ryan Tannehill, you know, last week he had a lot better game. This week, he went back to somewhat struggling. So he went 30 for 49 for 298 and a touchdown. And he only added 3 carries for 9 yards. So my thoughts on Tannehill this year, I think he got Julio. I think expectations were high. I think he's lost his fundamentals because, right, the last 2 years, he was Mr. Fundamental.
Yeah.
And I think this year he thought, okay, I'm going to be a bit of more of a gunslinger, but that's never been his style.
Yeah.
His style is fundamentals, maybe dink and dunk, some would call it, but that works for him.
Yep.
What do you think? You agree?
Yeah. So, you know, I've been patient with Tannehill, but yeah, I mean, he didn't have his 2 best receivers, but the fundamentals aren't there, like you talked about. The numbers aren't there like he was getting last year. Yeah. But again, he's not gonna, how do you say, he's not ruining the team. Like he's not throwing a ton of picks or fumbling. So I mean, basically he could be Justin Fields, but he's not. So
wow. Wow. Well, let's hey, you know what? Justin Fields had some good news today, so we'll get into that later. But as you mentioned, King Henry, 33 carries for 157 and a touchdown. Boy, oh boy, if he don't, I mean, it's no question. If I was a betting man, I'd put my money on King Henry taking away the rushing title this year, and it wouldn't even be close. Again, that's in case injury does not happen. Jeremy McNichols, however, we should talk about him, the backup running back. He had 1 carry for 11 yards, but he's been getting it done in the passing game.
Yeah.
This game, he had 12 targets, and he caught 8 for 74. No touchdowns, but he had the touchdown last week. Man, I'd be interested in picking up McNichols as a handcuff to Henry in case, hopefully something does not happen to Henry. But if it does, McNichols looks like one of the better handcuffs in the league. And then we can keep going as far as the passing game. So the next person with the next amount of targets was Josh Reynolds, had 9 targets, and he caught 6 for 59. And A.J. Brown, he was out this game, and they even said he'd be out a few more, if I'm not mistaken. And also, as you mentioned, Julio was out this game as well. So, I mean, maybe that's not so much Tannehill.
Yeah.
But again, go back to your fundamentals, Tannehill. You'll be completely fine. Even with you when you have no name, maybe this makes you realize you have to go back to that when you have no name receivers. Because the big names, you can feel like you can just throw up a bunch of jump balls. And Derrick Henry, he's never been a pass catching running back, but he had 2 targets and he caught both for 20 yards. So he's definitely adding that to his game. And watch out, man. He could be MVP as long as the team's record reflects that. Now the defense, Christian Fulton did have an interception. And they also had 1 sack as a defense, who was Harold Landry. So yeah, this was definitely interesting that they were losing to the Jets like this. Randy Bullock, their kicker, he went 3 of 4 for his longest was a 46 and 1 field goal. So not too bad of a day, but you would want better for a Tennessee-led offense. All right, let's go ahead and look at the Jets side of the ball, their side of things. Ilson. So what did you see from Ilson?
Yeah, he looked I saw a few highlights. He was very accurate on some of the plays that he needed. He got his receiver Corey Davis involved.
Yeah.
More this game, which was good to see. And the biggest takeaway I saw is Crowder was back.
Oh yeah.
And that helped him out a lot.
Pick up Crowder if you can, especially in PPR.
That looked like his favorite target.
Oh yeah.
And but Zach Wilson, he looked like he's coming along.
Competent, right?
Yeah.
Competent. So Zach Wilson, as we mentioned, he went 21 for 34 for 297, 2 touchdowns and a pick. And Michael Carter, he had his touchdown rushing. He had 13 carries for 38 yards. Without that touchdown, though, I mean, he really didn't do too much in the running game. He only had 38 yards on 13 carries. That's less than 3 yards to carry. And even in the passing game, he caught 1, but was for -4 yards. So the fact they got this W is, I don't know. I guess we got to give some flowers to the coaching game who somehow were able to draw up a really good scheme against this Tennessee team, although they couldn't stop Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
However, nobody can. So as we mentioned, Michael Carter, the next person, Tevin Coleman, he had 4 carries for 14. Yeah. And then the passing game, as you mentioned, Jamison Crowder had the most targets. He had 9 targets, 7 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown. So it looks like Jamison Crowder, he might just be the key to this offense.
Yeah.
And now that I think about it, it seems like he is, because before this week, we had Braxton Berrios lead the team in targets. We had Corey Davis lead the team in targets week 1. And those are all losses. But now we have Jamison Crowder leading the team, and it seems like it opened up everything for everybody else. So, kudos to Jamison Crowder being back. Next up, we had Corey Davis, who had 7 targets, and he had a really good game as well. He had 4 receptions for 111 yards and a touchdown. And we have to mention him, Keelan Cole. He had 4 targets, and he caught 3 for 92. As far as the defense, they had no picks, but they had Tannehill. They had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sacks on Ryan Tannehill.
Wow.
Yeah. So CJ Mosley had 1, Quincy Williams had 1, Quinnen Williams had 2, Franklin Myers had 1, Bryce Huff had 1.5, and Bryce Hall had half a sack. So this Jets defense, man, they came to play. So 7 sacks. They were in that backfield eating Tannehill all day.
Yeah, that's a lot of sacks.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, it's tough, I guess, if your guys ain't getting separation. You don't have A.J. Brown and Julio Jones to help you out there. And then their kicker, Amendola, and I thought it was no relation to Danny, but Matt Amendola went 2 for 2, his longest for 27, 3 of 3 for extra points. All right, and so that'll wrap up that game, surprising game. And so next week, the Tennessee Titans will be playing against, if I could find them, so the Jaguars. So we'll see what happens that game. I mean, we thought that was a shoe-in win with the Jets.
Yeah.
But the fact they lost to the Jets, we'll see what happens in Jacksonville. And the Jets next week will be taking on the Falcons, 1-3 Falcons, who, we'll get to that game, which is a surprising game as well. All right, so the next game we'll go ahead and look at is the Kansas City Chiefs defeat the Philadelphia Eagles 42-30. The Chiefs now improve to 2-2, and the Eagles fall now to 1-3. Yeah. So before we get into it, well, I seen a couple of the highlights this game. Can anybody stop Tyreek Hill?
Definitely not the Eagles.
Yeah, definitely not the Eagles.
Yeah, definitely not the Eagles.
My Bucks first half last year, we couldn't during the week. Well, we did good enough.
And I do recall Tyreek here prior to this game. Wasn't he fairly quiet?
Yeah.
So this was
exactly.
This was an explosion from him.
And if you sat him in fantasy, oh, I feel so sorry for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this game, boy, oh boy, welcome back to the party, Tyreek, showing what you can do. But so yeah, this game started off kind of like a good old shootout. You had a field goal from Eagles, then a touchdown from the Chiefs, then a touchdown from the Eagles, then a touchdown from the 14-10 at the end of the first. So it was a shootout to begin with. Then the Eagles came back, scored a field goal, and then just a little bit before the half, Chiefs were able to attack on another touchdown. All the way through the end, I mean, eventually the Eagles ran out of gas, but Mahomes, I guess he's made of gas because he did not run out, and Tyreek as well. We saw some good things on both sides of the ball. I think Jalen Hurts showed quite a lot this game, especially compared to versus the Dallas.
Yeah. And
then Kenneth Gainwell, I mean, he only rushed 3 times, but 31 yards on those 3 rushes. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We were saying we're pounding the table for Miles Sanders last week, but now it looks like Kenneth Gainwell, he outperformed him. Miles Sanders had 7 rushes for 13 yards. What about the Eagles side of the ball? What was your thoughts on this side?
I think that connection with Smith and Hurts, Devontae Smith.
Oh yeah,
and Hurts.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts. They were in college together.
Yeah.
So that definitely showed. So you're happy if you see that. But man, I don't think you're gonna win in today's NFL without a running game. You're gonna need a running game. We saw what happened to them last week against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And then we saw this week again. Hurts led them in rushing yards.
Yeah.
That's not gonna get it done.
Yeah, it's a good point because even though now my Buccaneers, our defense, we're like first against the rush, but everybody could pass on us, but we're still 3-1. So long as you can run effectively, you have a way better chance of winning the game. So let's go into it. First, we'll look at the Eagles side of the ball. Oh, real quick. One of those final touchdowns was a garbage time touchdown. But I mean, up until the end of the third, it was a close game. And then fourth quarter, Mahomes just blew it open. But Jalen Hurts finished the game 32 of 48 for 387 and 2 touchdowns, as well as adding 8 carries for 47 yards on the ground. As we mentioned, the other running backs, Gainwell, 3 for 31 and a touchdown. Miles Sanders, only 7 carries for only 13 yards. That's 1.9 a carry, which is not great. But as you mentioned, Devontae Smith, he had 10 targets, and he caught 7 of them for 122. So that rookie, he's looking, he's the Heisman winner.
Yeah.
He's looking like, he brought something to the Eagles, but it looks like.
I saw a highlight catch from him during that game.
Nice.
So that was good to see.
Yeah, you're going to want to see that more. I mean, last week he didn't have nearly as many targets. So hopefully Jalen Hurts realizes, but then again, he had Diggs on him, right? Last week.
That's true.
So, hey, Diggs Island. And as you mentioned, Zach Ertz, he had 8 targets, caught 6 for 60. And Kenneth Gainwell, again, he had 8 targets, caught 6 for 58. You were mentioning keep your eye on Dallas Goedert.
Yeah.
If Ertz was hurt. However, Ertz played this game, but Goddard still had 5 catches, all of his 5 targets for 56 and a touchdown. So if you listen to us, hey,
Yeah.
We helped you out. Miles Sanders also adding on to his 13 yards rushing, had 3 catches for 34. And then we mentioned Quez Watkins, he's been their big play guy. He had 7 targets, but he only caught 3 for 38. And then the second touchdown catch went to Greg Ward, who caught a 15-yarder. And as we mentioned, it was a back and forth, and that Greg Ward one was a garbage time play, so don't look into Greg Ward too much. We could be wrong, of course, but their defense, Eric Wilson had a pick on Mahomes, which is, you're going to need more than one pick, obviously, because they were able to do whatever they wanted. And then Javon Hargrave had a sack, and now that was it for the defense.
Yeah, that's not good stuff from your defense, because this is back-to-back weeks, I believe, at 40 points and more.
Yikes.
So yeah. Chiefs and then the Cowboys. So
40 burgers, man. They're putting up 40 burgers on them.
Man.
Now, as far as their kicker, Jake Elliott, he went 3 for 3. The longest was a 31, and extra points, he went 3 for 3 as well. So good stuff from Jake Elliott. Real quick, what's your, because he's on a lot of waiver wires, what's your season outlook for Jalen Hurts?
He's gonna be good.
This game was a good game.
Yeah, he's gonna give you those fantasy points because they're gonna be down, like we talked about their defense not being
good point. Yeah.
So Jalen Hurts is gonna be throwing the ball a lot. So
yeah,
fantasy wise, we know what that means. That means money.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, let's take a look at the other side of the ball, and I think he's pulling himself maybe a little bit further ahead of that MVP race. Patrick Mahomes went 24 for 30, so he only missed 6 catches.
Yeah,
which is amazing, and he did that for 270 yards for 5 touchdowns and 1 pick. And ever since we mentioned Edwards-Helaire, right?
Yeah,
we said, oh, he's just there to help his boy. It seems like his boy now is kind of helping him. So yeah. He had 14 carries, but on those 14 carries, 102 yards. So they're drawing up some really good plays for CEH, and he's not meh anymore. That's Clyde. That's Clyde the Glide, right there. Clyde the Glide Hilaire. All right, and then Darrell Williams had the second most carries. He had 10 for 42, and he took the red zone touchdown as well. I was watching the one of the highlights where Patrick Mahomes, he does that little flip play, and this time it went to Edwards-Helaire. But that when they're right there on the goal line, keep an eye out for that little flip where he kind of says hike, man cuts in front of him, he just tosses it in front of him real quick, kind of on a draw.
Yeah.
Keep your eye out, defenses, for that, because they showed a highlight where they utilize different players, but that same exact play.
Same play, yeah.
Exactly.
I've seen that play a lot from the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Normally it would go to Kelsey.
Exactly. Well, I've seen a few players. Yeah, Kelsey. I think I've seen I can't remember, but yeah, no. They utilize that play a lot. So defenses, keep your eye on that if you see that formation. And then Mahomes also added 5 carries for 26 yards, and I seen one of those. He scampered down the field. Mecole Hardman, they drew him up a couple of good running plays as well. He had 2 carries for 25 yards, and that a couple weeks now they've used him in the running game. Was it at the end of last week or this week? Andy Reid went to the hospital to check.
I think it was this past week. Remember, because they had lost, and you said maybe that's what sent them to the hospital.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we mentioned it, but yeah, Andy Reid did get. He at the end of that game, he was sick, so he went to the hospital. Thankfully, everything was fine. He was back on the sideline this week. So
and he seemed cool this week because he came back to Philly.
Yeah,
and he was joking. He said he ate a Philly cheesesteak sandwich.
Oh,
so he seemed in good spirits. So that was good to see for Andy Reid.
That's good. We talked about him. Those 3 down weeks for Tyreek Hill, he more than made up for in this 1 week alone. So he had 12 targets, 11 receptions for 186 and 3 touchdowns. So you just got to plug him in every game, because if you miss one of these games, you're going to be kicking yourself. You don't want to see those points on your bench. Kelsey, however, had a somewhat down game. He had 6 targets, and he caught 4 for 23. As crazy as they did, as far as the passing game, nobody else had over 23 yards receiving, which is Byron Pringles. Excuse me. And as we mentioned, Edwards-Helaire is the one who got that toss. And then looks like they had another toss to Jody Fortson, 2-yard touchdown from Mahomes to Fortson as well. All right, and then let's take a look at the defensive side of things. So they had 3 sacks on the day. Michael Dana had 2, and L'Jarius Sneed had 1. And as far as their kicker, they didn't need no field goals.
No,
but he did make all his extra points. So
yeah,
easy 6 points, right?
yeah,
Harrison Butker, and I know somebody played him. Easy 6.
yeah.
Which, if you're a Daniel Carlson fan, you would have took that better than what you got. But yeah, we'll go ahead and let's see who the Chiefs take on next. The Chiefs take on the Bills next. Ooh, it's gonna be a really good game. And the Eagles will be playing against the Panthers. So they're gonna, well, I take it back. They're not gonna see Stephon Gilmore quite yet.
No, not yet.
Because the Panthers just acquired him in a trade this morning, which is everybody was surprised this morning. All right, so we'll take a look at the next game. So the New York Giants defeat the New Orleans Saints. Yeah, and I'm glad about this one. I'm glad about all the NFC East versus NFC South games this week. The New York Giants now improved to 1-3, and the New Orleans Saints now moved to 2-2. So what did you see from this game? Were you able to catch any of this? Oh, yeah. Real quick.
Yep.
We're just so happy to see Saquon is back.
Yep.
Saquon is back, and that burst is back. I know we said week 2 and week 3 we didn't see that burst, but I think we saw it, and he worked his way back. And hey, kudos to the head coach. They slowly worked him back in, even though he didn't have it week 1 and 2. It just takes enough reps, enough confidence. Yeah, Saquon's looking like his old self. Sorry.
Which I'm loving because he's on my fantasy team.
Exactly.
But my biggest take from this game, fantasy aside, when I saw the schedule, I was like, okay, cool. Giants are about to be 0-4 because they're playing the Saints, and the Saints defense,
tough.
They've been good this year. Yeah. So I actually benched Saquon Barkley just because I felt like the Saints are just gonna beat them up.
Yeah.
Bully ball. They're just gonna beat them up. Nah, that is not what happened. So I don't know. It's kind of watching it as I'm watching the scoreboard throughout the day. I'm like, whoa, where's this coming from the Giants? Like,
yeah.
So I guess we need to look further into the stats to figure out what really happened because
that's a good point. Because by halftime it was only 7-7, and then it even went into overtime on a somewhat of a late minute field goal from Graham Gano, who we call money, and he's making that money this year. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's look into it. We'll go ahead and do the breakdown. So the New York Giants started off the game 7-0 on a deep pass to John Ross, who was just activated.
Yeah.
So looks like Daniel Jones got his deep guy. I know I have him in one of my leagues. I'm going to be firing up Daniel Jones until he proves he can't do it no more. Because he keeps, although he had a down week last week, this week, he's still adding a bit in the run game as well. And then the Saints came right back in the second quarter and a bit later in the second quarter and scored a touchdown. Winston to Johnson made it 7-7. So 7-7 at the half. And then Taysom Hill, we said we're going to be seeing some more Taysom Hill. He's been doing it, got a touchdown. And then so all the way until the fourth quarter when they tied the game 21-21. And again, it was 10-21 going into the fourth quarter. So what happened was it looks like the Giants did enough in the fourth quarter. Their defense held the Saints, and the offense scored 11 unanswered points to take it into overtime. And then Saquon did his job.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So, hey, kudos to the Giants on this one. Craig, buddy Craig, good. He's a Giants fan. So, hey, GG's, man.
Yep.
So let's start with the Giants side of things. So as we mentioned, Daniel Jones, he went 28 for 40 for 402 yards. He had 2 throwing touchdowns and 1 interception. We mentioned he added 4 carries for 27 yards. And Saquon Barkley, he only had 13 carries, but he went for 52 yards and a touchdown, as well as adding 5 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown in the passing game as well. So Saquon, he got the passes. He looked good. Him and Daniel Jones were clicking pretty well. And 4 yards a carry against this tough Saints defense. That's pretty good.
That's dang good.
Yeah, the only guy we have to mention in the running game is Daniel Jones because everybody else only had 1 carry, and we already mentioned his yardage total. As far as the passing game, so this was a surprise. Kadarius Toney led the team in targets. He had 9 targets. He caught 6 for 78. I believe Slayton missed this game as well as
Shepard.
Uh, Kadarius Toney was also a first round pick.
Yeah, they called him the human joystick. So
Yeah, they should be playing. I know that's kind of a crowded locker room there. They should look at teams in need of a receiver. Maybe take a look at getting one of them guys out of there. But Kadarius Toney needs to play more. He looks really good. Kenny Golladay, he had 7 targets. He caught 6 for 116, which is really good. And and John Ross, as we mentioned, he had 4 targets. He caught 3 for 77 and a touchdown. He's looking there like their deep play guy. And this, we've mentioned it in past weeks, this Giants offense, it looks like they need that deep play guy, but John Ross is one of the better ones to have. Slayton, we've seen 7 targets, 3 catches games before, but looks like John Ross is going to be a difference maker.
Yeah, I'm just getting a little worried looking at these receivers now. The fact that they're in my division, I mean,
yeah,
man, they're pretty deep at that position.
Yeah, it's a good receiver. You can never have too many good receivers. However, Toney got to get more play. Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting with Slayton and Shepard coming back. Hopefully not this week against the Cowboys. So.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be. Well, I mean, it might help them confuse things too as well, but we'll see. Now their tight ends. Evan Ingram had 6 targets, caught 5 for 27, and Kyle Rudolph had 3 targets, caught 2 for 24. So those if you're not in a PPR, they didn't do too much for you, but Evan Ingram continues to see the bulk of things there. As far as their defense, James Bradbury keeps coming up clutch. He had a pick. I mean, if you just play your cards right against Winston, you should have a pick to the league, telling everybody. But the defense had no sacks, so he did well as far as getting the ball out on time or in time. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. So the Giants next week will be taking on the Dallas Cowboys, as you mentioned, and the Saints will now be playing against the Washington football team. So we'll see what happens in that game, and we'll get to that game as well. Now, so the next game we're going to go ahead and look at, and this one was somewhat surprising. I mean, everybody, maybe at least by the box score or the scoring total, the final score. So the Cleveland Browns defeat the Minnesota Vikings 14-7. So this moves Cleveland to 3-1 and Minnesota to 1-3. Were you able to catch any of this game? Do you have any thoughts on this one?
Well, I have Kirk Cousins on my fantasy team.
Yeah, he's been having a great season.
So I started him looking at this game like, oh, this is going to be a high-scoring game. So as I saw the first quarter, right away, I think it was their first drive, maybe, Kirk Carson had a touchdown. So I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those games. Nice. But as I continue to refresh my team, he was kind of just stuck at the same number. So I turned on the game just to kind of see what was going on. Man, it's almost like he didn't have no time back there.
Yeah,
he was just, it wasn't looking good at all.
Yeah, and you could almost credit who did Cleveland play last week?
Fields, right?
Yeah. You can almost credit the Bears for that confidence boost on that defensive side of Cleveland. Yeah, because like you said, they were living in the backfield. However, so I woke up, I'm in the sports chat, and I keep saying Baker Mayfield is not doing well. Again, they didn't need to do too well this game. Thankfully, he did quite enough, 14-7. So let's go ahead and break it down. So Baker Mayfield, he went 15 for 33, 115 yards passing, 0 touchdowns and 0 picks, and he added 11 yards on the ground on 2 carries. So yeah, Baker Mayfield didn't look great this game.
No, I laugh because that's so bad. Like,
yeah, he completed less than half of his attempts, less than 200 yards. I mean, in Minnesota, prior to this week, they were in barn burners against, Arizona. And so we'll talk about Arizona, the last undefeated team left. But as far as rushing, Nick Chubb, still the guy, 21 carries, 100 yards. Kareem Hunt, still really good as well. It's
like I said, if you got either, I keep saying, if you got Chubb or Hunt,
both,
try to trade for a Hunt. So that way you could just roll them both out there. That's what I tried to do last year.
Yeah.
Because I had Chubb, but if you somehow managed to pull that off, you'd feel a lot better because, as some of you know, Chubb got hurt last year.
Yeah.
So having Hunt as that handcuff would be awesome. So, or if you own Hunt, try to go get Chubb. Just makes life easier.
Yeah, you won't regret either. And Kareem Hunt, again, he had a 17 yards reception on 2 catches, and Chubb, he only had 1 reception for 5
I think from
yards,
the best, going back to Baker real quick, just because I saw it flash in my head right now. The best thing from him this weekend is his commercials.
Yeah, he had some funny ones. Yeah, and I always try to look at the colorings of the schemes of whatever team or jerseys that they're showing, and it looks close to Cleveland, but also it looks more so like the Saints in his commercials. I don't know.
I'm about to check that.
Never know, because you never know. Some irony happens like that. But as we mentioned, so yeah, that running back core is always very good. Let's go into the receiver cores now. So Rashard Higgins had 7 targets. He caught 4 for 63. Odell Beckham, again, you like to see the yardage total, but for some reason, when Landry's not in there and Beckham's in there, and maybe when they're both together, seems like Beckham he falls apart. He force feeds him, maybe. I don't know, but he only had 2 catches for 27 yards. And it always works against Baker Mayfield as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see. And then Austin Hooper, who's been doing well this season, he had 5 targets, but he only caught 1 for 11. Yeah, so Baker was off. I mean, kudos to the Minnesota defense. Although they lost, they did their job. Now, Greedy Williams had an interception, and also they had 2 sacks on the day. McKinley had 1, Tack McKinley. I think he was drafted by Atlanta.
Yep.
And Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett both split a sack. So, but however, like you said, Myles Garrett, he lives in that backfield. The fact he's making his presence known back there, watch out, offensive lineman. Their kicker went 2 for 2, and the longest was a 53 with 0 extra points. Interesting. Yeah, 0 extra. So here's one of those things where you see 14-7, you're like, oh, 2 touchdowns. No, it was 1 touchdown, 2-point conversion, and then 2 field goals.
Yep, that is interesting.
Yeah. All right, let's look at the Vikings side of things now. So your boy Kirk Cousins. All right, so he had a somewhat tough week. He still got you that passing touchdown. Are you afraid to now run him every week now?
No.
You're still running him every week?
Like you said, I thought, Cleveland D was able to just gain so much confidence from the game before. So they just came in clicking, feeling really good about themselves. And we know when teams are feeling good about themselves, that's a lot of momentum.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I'm not scared, Kirk Cousins. I'm going to still keep firing him up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, yeah, Kirk Cousins, he went 20 for 38. He passed for 203 yards, got that touchdown, and he threw a pick. He added nothing on the ground. So, I mean, he didn't totally ruin your day fantasy, but you'd like to see more, especially the first 3 weeks with Kirk Cousins. And Dalvin Cook, again, he had 9 carries for 34 yards, no touchdowns. In the passing game, he had 6 targets, but he only caught 2 for 10. So Dalvin Cook, it looks like Cleveland did a good job limiting him. Alexander Madison, we got to mention, it had 10 carries for 20 yards. But it looks like as far as a whole, Cleveland definitely limited not only the pass defense, but the run defense, the pass offense, but the run offense as well. As far as the receivers, Adam Thielen, who's had a touchdown seemingly every week, he had 8 targets, which is good to see, but he only caught 3 for 46 and no touchdowns. And Justin Jefferson is good for him.
Yeah,
he had 7 targets, caught 6 for 84, and he had the lone touchdown on a 12-yarder. KJ Osborne, who's been having a great year so far, he had 7 targets but only caught 3 for 26. Conklin, he had 6 targets, caught 4 for 18. Seems like 6 is the number for tight ends as far as targets. I'm noticing that. Try to get 6 per game. But no interceptions on the defense. But this defense also did have 3 sacks. Dalvin Tomlinson had a sack, Everson Griffin had a sack, and Danielle Hunter. Correct me if I'm saying, is it Danielle or Daniel?
I don't know.
That last E, the E at the end of his name, I usually you see Daniel Daniel, but it's spelled Danielle.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I should do some more homework. But as far as their kicking, 0 field goals on 0 attempts, but he did make that extra point. I got to give kudos to both the defenses. They both did a great job. But again, that's going to be interesting to see what they can do next week because this is kind of an odd game. But Cleveland will go against the Chargers. So let's see if that red hot Cleveland defense can continue it against the red hot Herbert.
Nope.
And then the Minnesota Vikings will go home against the Lions.
Oh, they're winning that one. Yeah, fire up Kirk Cousins.
Fire up for Kirk Cousins.
Fire him up, man.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook, Thielen, Justin Jefferson. Hopefully, though, this game didn't affect their, as you mentioned, confidence.
Well, I think that's why I say fire on because it's games like against the Lions that'll get them right back on it.
Yeah, maybe their confidence might have been affected first half, second half. But by the end of the game against that defense, I mean, who can't stop any run? Fire up Dalvin Cook for sure.
Yeah.
They should get more confidence as the game goes. All right, so let's move on now to the Chicago Bears defeating the Detroit Lions, who we just mentioned, 24-14. The Chicago Bears moved to 2-2, and the Detroit Lions now moved to 0-4. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Owen.
Owen who?
Owen Hart, baby. 0-4. All right, so, so the game started off, again, as we've mentioned, David Montgomery has been a great-looking player all year. He reminds me of James Robinson and that they get it done. They just got to make sure they utilize them. We'll go ahead and look at the Bears offense. So what'd you see from Justin Fields, who, by the way, was announced quarterback one for rest of the season?
Okay, I got to admit, I didn't tune into any of this game, nor did I watch any highlights. The only thing that I did keep seeing was Montgomery scoring because I was playing against him. But as far as highlights and tuning into this game at all, I mean, it was the Lions versus Bears. It didn't entice me at all, so I didn't tune in to it. But again, Montgomery got hurt, and I was able to go and pick up the backup. Let's see, the backup was Damian Williams. Was his name. So as soon as I saw him go down, and I was playing against Montgomery, I even told the guy in my league, I was like, "I'll beat you to it." I got him.
Yeah.
So.
And as a David Montgomery owner, I finally got over the fear of playing him. This week looked great. He was doing a great job, and it's Detroit Lions, so that kind of helps alleviate fears. And he was doing it great. Thankfully, before he went down, he was able to do enough for me or any fantasy team that ran him. So we'll talk about him first. David Montgomery had 23 carries for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had no targets, no receptions, but he did enough on the ground. He's a really good player. I've watched him maybe the past 2 or 3 seasons, 2 seasons. He's just a really good player.
But doesn't he seem injured often though?
Yeah,
I feel like if I'm not mistaken, he's like injured like every year.
Yeah, so he is that bell cow guy, and that does take a toll on a lot of players, and it's the rare ones that can withstand or weather that kind of punishment. Guys like James Robinson, Derrick Henry. So David Montgomery, he's a really good player, but again, he is somewhat injury prone. But let's talk about Justin Fields. He completed 11 passes on 17 attempts. So, the head coach, Matt Nagy, this game, it really looks like they tried to do their best to limit the passing attempts to try to get him going. So Matt Nagy, last week we're ripping him up, saying he didn't do a great job protecting his rookie quarterback of the future. This week, it seems like he was doing his job. So, good job, Matt Nagy, fixing up what you had to. Of course, you can also thank Detroit for that as well. He went 11 for 17, 209 yards. He didn't throw any touchdowns, but he did throw a pick. And on the ground, he ran 3 times for 9 yards. He'll only get better as the year goes because, again, he was mentioned starter or QB1.
Yeah.
But, he didn't do nothing. If you have him on fantasy, you just want to let him ride the bench until he gets his confidence and his game up. And then you can fire him up with confidence as the year goes along. And as you mentioned, Damian Williams had 8 carries for 55 and a touchdown. We already spoke on David Montgomery and his totals. Darnell Mooney also added a carry for 10 yards. And since we're talking about Darnell Mooney, he had 7 targets and he caught 5 for 125. Whatever those plays you drew up for Darnell Mooney just keep running them.
Yep.
It works. 5 for 125. That's crazy. Allen Robinson, is good to see that he got a bit more involved in the passing game. He only had 3 targets, but he caught all 3 for 63. So it's good because he's a really good receiver as well. And yeah, nothing else really happened on offense.
Nope.
Let's look at, no interceptions this game, but they did have 4 sacks. Roquan Smith, Robert Quinn, Travis Gibson, and Khalil Mack all had a sack. And we know this is a really good defense. They just need that offense to do just enough to help them win games. Cairo Santos, he went 1 for 1 for field goals, a 33-yarder, and he also made all 3 extra points. Now let's look at the Detroit Lions side of things. Jared Goff, he went 24 for 38 for 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. And, Goff, he's had an okay season so far. For fantasy, he's also had an okay season. But, in the beginning of the season, he was giving Hawkinson, he was making him a lot better. But, I mean, he went back to him this game. He had 8 targets, 4 for 42, Hawkinson. So, it's just sad that the Detroit Lions defense really ain't doing nothing for Jared Goff,
Yeah.
He was traded, Goff was traded from a perennial playoff team to now the Detroit stinking Lions, right?
I feel bad for him because his name's Jared.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what's going on. As we mentioned in the first episode, Detroit, man, we feel bad for your whole fan base.
Yeah, man.
Jeez, all the way back to Barry Sanders. It's sad to see it.
And correct me if I'm mistaken, wasn't the Lions the one that had that heartbreaker last week to Justin Tucker?
Oh,
so
yeah, it was the Ravens. Yeah.
So remember, I asked you that day. I said, "Do you believe in moral victories?"
Well,
clearly
like
not. Because
Detroit don't.
Clearly not, because you would think that would inspire them. Okay, we just nearly beat Lamar Jackson. We got Justin Fields coming, who was sacked a ton.
Yeah.
The week before, so you could tell that kind of crushed them. And now losing to Justin Fields. Yeah, I only expect Detroit Lions to go down from here.
Yeah, the end of that game, they could have taken it one of 2 ways. Either you're motivated that you did such a good job against a perennial playoff team, who's always a contender, or you can take it where it's like, why try? If we're still going to lose, why try?
Yeah.
It seems like we see how the Detroit Lions took it.
Yep.
And it just makes me think about that, age-old slogan, pressure makes diamonds if it doesn't crumble you. So, you'd hate to see teams or people just become crumbled under pressure, but if you withstand it, you fight back, you remain tough, and you weather the storm, you should be able to turn those negatives into a positive. Now, Jamal Williams, he carried 14 times for 66 yards. DeAndre Swift only carried 8 times for 16 yards, which is only 2 yards a carry. So they were able to somewhat slow down Swift, and they had just announced that he was going to be getting the ball a ton more this season. But I guess Chicago defense heard that, and every time he was in the backfield, they knew they were ready.
Yeah.
Now, Quentin Cephas, he had 5 targets. He caught 4 of them for 83. Their rookie receiver, Amon St. Brown, had 8 targets. He caught 6 for 70. Khalif Raymond had 6 targets. He caught 3 for 46 yards, and he's the one who caught both the touchdowns. And TJ Hawkinson, I mean, you're still going to run him. He had 8 targets, and he caught 4 for 42, which is pretty good. I mean, those targets is comfortable. You're glad to see that. And as we mentioned, DeAndre Swift had 6 targets, caught 4 for 33. Jared Goff in this game, he had 3 fumbles, but he only lost 2 of them. Man, so he had 2 fumbles. As you said, or as I mentioned, it's a showing of the Chicago Bear defense. Always he's similar to Cleveland defense, living in the backfield. They did have an interception on defense, Oruwariye, and this is twice now we've mentioned his name on the show, so he seems like a loin.
Wait, is that the guy that got injured or no?
Possibly. I wasn't able to catch that.
Or maybe not.
Yeah, but he's having a pretty good season, and that may be a person to build around on that defense. And Charles Harris had also a sack on defense. And their kicker Ryan Santoso had 0 for 0 attempts, but he made both the extra points. So this defense again did their job. Now, as you mentioned, Detroit will be playing the Vikings next week. So fire up all Minnesota guys. And the Chicago Bears will with now a confident defense, will be playing against the 3-1 Raiders, which again, they took their first L this week, but we're playing great before this. All right, so let's go ahead now. Let's for this next game, we have a special guest we'd like to bring on. So let me get a hold of him right now.
Hello.
All right, Austin, how you doing? This is a J Brothers Sports podcast review. We're about to go into
let's get it.
Yeah. So we're about to go into the Washington football team. We know that's your favorite team. They defeated Atlanta Falcons 34-30. You guys now move to 2-2, and Atlanta now moves to 1-3. Let us know. So what did you see this game? Were you excited? Are you happy?
I saw Heinicke, and I know you guys did too.
Yeah,
Heinicke. How did he do for fantasy?
Oh yeah, he tore it up. Trust me, he got picked up by a lot of teams after this one. So yeah, Heinicke tore it up. But I gotta ask you, what's your thoughts on this Washington football team defense?
Man, you had to do me like that, right?
I'm sorry, everybody's wondering.
Man, well, obviously, as we could see, the defense has been doing terrible. That's just straight facts.
Yeah.
There was a lot of hype coming into the season with being one of the top defense in the league. I'm sure we probably even picked their defense, in our fantasy teams, thinking, they're going to tear it up.
Yeah.
But from just what I've been observing with this Washington football team's defense is, man, the secondary, too many gaps are left open, players not playing their position. And you got to remember, it's a lot of new players in the system on the secondary side. You still have your front four, but if you don't got players and linebackers covering, being in the position they need to be, that front four is pretty much meaningless when the quarterback can get the ball off.
Exactly. And trust me, as a Bucs fan, I'm kind of seeing the same thing right now, especially with Pierre-Paul missing time because they're just roasting our secondary, who were hurt right now. But yeah, I know what you mean.
That's what it's been. And then we got some injuries on the linebacker side, so we're very thin. I thought they would go and pick up Jalen, who hit the market somehow. But I think they're just gonna ride with their guys and do or die with what they got.
Yeah, and we saw one player today become available for a split second. That was Stephon Gilmore, but then New England Patriots said, nope, never mind, he's traded. I don't know how you can do something like that, but they did it.
Hey, it's the Patriot way, right? I mean,
Exactly.
That's why they've been winning so many games, and that's why they still is everyone's favorite team.
Yeah, however you can do it dirty, right? But real quick, what'd you think about that last play to McKissick, Heinicke to McKissick?
Man, so during this game, I was like, what the heck is going on? I really thought they were going to lose to Atlanta Falcons, and I'm sure everyone else did.
Yeah.
But, man, Taylor Heinicke, honestly, I haven't heard this from anyone, but he kind of reminds me of Tony Romo a bit. When I used to watch Tony Romo a lot in the division. Not as, I know it's still early.
Yeah.
Really early. But just his mentality and how he goes about on the offense reminds me a lot of Tony Romo, but not throwing as many picks as Romo would.
Oh, I Jared would have a response right now, but he's a little bit occupied. But yeah, you know what? I can see that.
Let's be honest. Sometimes Tony Romo got you trigger happy. I think they're keeping Taylor Heinicke in the system, a little controlling. I know with that Buffalo Bills game last week, I think he was just trying to do too much, and he was like, he only could do one play at a time. And so that showed a lot with this Atlanta Falcons game, throwing 3 touchdowns and 0 picks. So it was awesome to see that, man.
Yeah, you could definitely see some Romo in him, but the only thing I will say is Heinicke, he can definitely do more with his legs than Romo, though.
I was gonna say that, but I'm glad you brought that out.
Yeah, talk about it.
Well, look at this. We had Terry McLaurin, one of the best receivers, but how well is he known? Nobody knows him. They're like, oh, who? How many quarterbacks has he had? but he's one of the top receivers. It's not top 5. I'm saying it now, but you see with just a decent quarterback who's building in the system and who's become more familiar with the scheme and playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
And you're just seeing what McLaurin can do to the defense. So it's really nice to see that, to really see McLaurin shine how he should.
Yeah, that's true.
Yo.
All right, we back. All right, so Jared, just to fill you in. So we were talking about, he was saying Heinicke reminds him of Tony Romo. How do you take that as a Dallas fan?
I haven't watched much of Heinicke yet. I'd like to actually watch him, but just looking at his stats alone, yeah, I could see it. What's your reason behind that, though, Austin? Like, what do you see resemblance of Romo on?
Oh, no, just how he controls the game and how he's managing the game. Yeah, I wouldn't say he's as trigger happy as Romo, but I mean, the dude's only been playing for a couple games, so.
And he said that's why he don't throw as much picks as Romo.
Yeah, that's why he don't throw as much picks. We know Romo had a problem because he tried to play like Brett Favre, and we all know Brett Favre would kind of do that too. But I just seen with him being hungry, and learning the system. I was familiar with that, with being with Rivera. So it's nice to see him control and manage the game. I could finally. Has Washington found gold with this guy? Who knows? We'll see how the season goes.
And I was explaining to Jared earlier this season that, I think Heinicke is the word that comes to mind is competent, but he's actually now, as the season's going along, and we know it's just Falcon defense. But he's showing that, he's able to overcome. I mean, they're 2-2 now. Do they get their first win with him as well?
No, it's the second, and then both his wins were those game winners, against the Giants and then against the Falcons.
Oh, so, yeah, I remember that. Okay.
He's hungry. Yeah, he's just not giving up. He gives you that little hope, when your team's down and you got to make that drive. He's kind of showing that he gives the team a little hope.
All right. Well, we got you on the line. I got to ask you now, from your point of view as a Washington football team fan, who in your division do you dislike the most?
Man, it's all love over here. But every year, though, for as long as I've been a Washington fan, Washington has always been, predicted to be in last place. The Giants going to Super Bowl, Eagles, and then Cowboys. For some reason, are always going to win the division. It seems like every season it was Cowboys were going to win the division. So I think just because of the whole, you turn on the TV and it's like, and like Jared was saying, like, you're always talking about Cowboys, this and that, and how they're, either going to Super Bowl, you got some fans or individuals saying that, or they're going to win the division. So the team I dislike the most, I dislike all of them when they're playing against Washington, but I think there's that little nice rivalry with the Cowboys and what used to be the Redskins. There's always a nice one.
All right. Well, let me now ask you, how about outside of the division? Who do you dislike the most?
Man, it's hard. I was thinking of this question because right when I got into liking football, and I was always a fan of the game, like players. I always felt like it was the players more than the team.
Yeah.
Used to be like a big Randy Moss fan, watching Barry Sanders, or even Garrison Hurst. I don't know if you guys remember him.
Yeah.
But just all these different players I was just like fascinated by. But then I know it's like, oh, you gotta pick a team. So it's like, so the team, I think it was I think I just dislike Tom Brady for how good he is.
Yeah. With the Patriots.
Whatever team Brady's on, I'm like, hey man, share some of them rings with us, like, hey.
True that.
But I think that's what I'm gonna go with.
Yeah, man, he's the GOAT, man.
He's great. Yeah, he's the GOAT, and he's great. And like, dang, I hate it.
Nice. All right, well,
too good.
Before we let you go, Jared, do you have any words you'd like to have for a Washington football team fan?
You were being Nice. Just say you hate the
Yeah.
Cowboys, bro. Come on, you gave a big
Oh,
old long answer.
Man, I can't say it because it's like, you know, going way back, it was like Roy Williams. I remember like Roy Williams and like Sean Taylor. Like, man, these boys could hit, and then it was always just a nice game because it was just, I don't know, maybe because I'm just a fan of the game.
Just all love.
Like even the Cowboys right now. I was like, if the Washington can't figure out the whatever got going on with the defense, when time comes for them to play the Cowboys, it's gonna be horrible. So if Washington could get it together somehow, get this system working and function as one unit, that should be a really good game to look forward to. But if not, dang, Cowboys got some bad dudes, so
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. I know we don't play you guys till late in the year.
I know that's a good thing.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
All right, Austin, we're gonna let you go, man. Maybe we'll have you on back. Yeah, we'll have you on back next time.
Pick him up.
Yep.
Heinicke, yep. Taylor Heinicke, pick him up, fantasy. Yep. All right, man.
Get it rolling. All right, later, y'all.
All right.
Later.
All right, so as you heard it, Washington football team were able to pull this one off on the arm and the legs of Taylor Heinicke. So mentioning him, we'll go into the stats now. So Heinicke, he went 23 for 33 for 290 yards and 3 touchdowns and no picks. And he also had 5 carries for 43 yards on the ground. Antonio Gibson was their main back. He had 14 carries for 63 yards and a touchdown carrying. J.D. McKissick, now as far as carrying, he didn't do too much, but he had that amazing final play to win the game when he dove for the pylon, and I didn't think he had it, but they reviewed it and it said he did. But he only carried 7 times, but only got 15 yards. But as far as the passing game, he had 5 targets, caught off 5 for 44 and that touchdown. Now let's the receivers. So Terry McLaurin, who Austin also mentioned, he had 13 targets. He caught 6 of them, but he went for 123 and 2 touchdowns. Baller, man. Scary Terry back again. Other than that, Curtis Samuel had 4 targets for 19 yards. Ricky Seals-Jones had 4 targets, caught 2 for 19. There's not much else to mention here on the offensive, at least yardage wise and target wise. The defense, only 1 sack, no picks. So, we thought this defense would be eating up teams with that front 4, but looks like they're not doing it. And with, like he mentioned, with the weak secondary, it's not getting these guys enough time. But Montez Sweat is the one who had the sack. Dustin Hopkins went 1 for 1 for field goals, but he only went 1 for 3 on extra points. So it's a good thing they won this game because they might have blamed him for two lost points there. Should have been 36-30, right? All right, now let's look at the Falcons side of things. So Matt Ryan finally had a really good game this season. He went 25 for 42. And I mean really good by these touchdowns. He had 283 yards passing, 4 passing touchdowns. And we know 3 of them went to Cordarrelle Patterson, which I've been kind of hesitant to play Cordarrelle, but after this week, I'm just going to blindly just put him in my lineup and just go ahead and go with it.
That's what I did this week, and it paid off. So.
Nice. I'm sure you were happy about that. But Mike Davis, he had 13 carries. He had the most carries, but only 14 yards. So Washington was able to stuff Mike Davis. But then again, when Cordarrelle Patterson got the ball, he had 6 carries for 34 yards. And Wayne Gallman had 6 carries as well for 29 yards. And we got to mention him, Matt Ryan had a nice little scamper. He had 1 carry for 17 yards. So the old man got nice little play right there.
Yeah.
Cordarrelle Patterson. So as we mentioned, he had 3 touchdowns. He had 6 targets. He caught 5 of them for 82 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. So again, good thing.
I think he even Randy Mossed one of the DBs on the Washington. So
yeah, we said it last week. He's a really good player, man. It's just, it's finally good to see him having a great season like this.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley had 13 targets, caught 7 for 80. Kyle Pitts had 9 targets, caught 4 for 50. Their other tight end, Hayden Hurst, had 4 targets, caught all 4 for 29. We mentioned him before, Zacchaeus. He had 3 targets this game, only caught 1 for 15. He's one of those big play guys. So it looks like, you're not going to want to play him actually, because this ain't giving you too much confidence. And Mike Davis, as far as the receiving game, he had 2 targets. He caught 12, and one of those was a touchdown. Now the defense had 0 interceptions, but they did have 1 sack, and that was from Oluokun. Excuse my pronunciation, but Oluokun had the lone sack on that defense. Now, as we mentioned, Washington next week will go on to play the Saints, and the Atlanta Falcons will play against the Jets. So you're going to look at both of those games. All right, let's talk about the biggest blowout this week. So the Houston Texans played against the Buffalo Bills. The Bills won 40-0. The Bills are now 3-1, and the Houston Texans are now 0-3. Were you able to catch any of this game? Any thoughts on this one?
I started Buffalo defense, and they balled out.
Oh, yeah.
And Josh Allen, they put up a nice game. I mean, he did better stats last week, but he did enough.
Nice. Yeah, I got a team playing against the Texans. I think it's New England playing against the Texans this week. And Davis Mills, what he did, we'll go into the stats, but I'm going to keep wanting to play defenses against the Houston Texans. But yeah, this was a blowout among blowouts, and the Buffalo's defense just completely manhandled Houston Texans offense. Josh Allen went 20 for 30 for 248, 2 passing touchdowns and a pick. And we got Mitchell Trubisky even came into the game, and even at the end, it was a garbage time touchdown when the game was over, pretty much 33-0. But he even scored with his legs at the end of the game. So, Trubisky was even killing this Houston Texans defense. As far as rushing, Devin Singletary had 14 carries for 79 yards. Zach Moss had 14 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown. And it seems like, and even Josh Allen had 6 carries for 41 yards. And then we mentioned the Mitchell Trubisky rushing touchdown. And then in the receiving game, so this is a good get back right game for Stephon Diggs. He had 11 targets, caught 7 for 114. The next guy in targets was Dawson Knox. He had 8. He caught 5 of them for 37 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, last week we were mentioning how he looks like a really good tight end to take a look at, and it continues. So maybe go pick up Dawson Knox. And Emmanuel Sanders, who had a huge game last week. This week he had 6 targets, caught 5 for 74. So pretty strong game. Not too bad. The defense had 4 interceptions. Micah Hyde had 1. Matakevich had 1. Tremaine Edmonds had 1. And Jaquan Johnson all had 1. And then the defense, they only had 2 sacks, but they were doing everything else against them. Boogie Basham had 1, and Star Lutulele had 1 as well. Their kicker, Tyler Bass, he went 4-4 for 30. His longest was a 33, and also 4-4 as far as field goals. All right, and now we'll go ahead and take a look at the Houston side of things, and it may not be much. All right, so Davis Mills went 11 for 21 for 87 yards, 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And, man, he had a rough game. This entire offense, I mean, they didn't even – Philip Lindsay had 4 carries for -1 yards. Rex Burkhead had a carry for -1 yard. Mark Ingram, he had 6 carries for 24 yards. And David Johnson had 5 carries for 21 yards. I'd like to blame the coach for not running as much as he should have. That seems to be the only thing that was working. However, not under Philip Lindsay. The other 2 guys were able to run it. But we finally found a somewhat down game for Brandon Cooks. He had 7 targets, and he caught 5 for 47. In PPR, it's still okay, but it's not good as he's been doing. And then the next guy, Anthony, they attempted 5 targets to Anthony Miller. He only caught 1 for 3 yards. So I'll tell you what, I'm starting every defense against Houston Texans until they can figure that offense out.
Yep.
There's not nothing to mention on this offense. As far as their defense, before I go into that, so Jordan Akins had lost a fumble as well. But their defense, Lonnie Johnson did have an interception, and they had 1 sack from Whitney Marsalis. And then they were blown out, so their kicker didn't even get nothing going. So nothing to mention. Good job, Buffalo Bills. Keep firing all Buffalo Bills until they can slow down, if anybody slows down. Buffalo will play against the Chiefs, as we mentioned. That's the Sunday night game. And then the Houston Texans will be going up against the Patriots. So I'm going to be playing my Patriots defense. All right, let's talk about the next game. So a revenge game. Indianapolis Colts defeat Miami Dolphins 27-17. Both teams now move to 1-3. So it's good seeing Colts get their first win. However, I feel bad because I wanted Brissett to get his revenge. But Brissett, he went 20 for 30, 199 yards and 2 touchdowns. He only added 8 yards on the ground as far as carries. Yeah, it looks like this Colts defense came to play. They were able to stop the run fairly well. Myles Gaskin, only 2 carries for 3 yards. What, did he get hurt?
No, I just don't think they're using him
really
at all this year.
Yeah, so. Malcolm Brown had 8 carries. He had the most carries for only 23 yards. So, man, they really could not run nothing. Devontae Parker had the most targets, 9. He caught 4 for 77 and a touchdown, which is good to see for Devontae Parker. Mike Gesicki still being playable. He had 6 targets, caught 5 for 57 and a touchdown. Jalen Waddle, the rookie, he didn't have as many targets as he did last week.
Which I started him, and I was bummed out.
Yeah.
And we talked about Devontae Parker last week. Remember, we'll just stay away from him.
Yeah.
He ended up being the one that had a good fantasy day.
Yeah, that's the thing with receivers. And we've even seen it with Tyreek Hill. We've seen it with Stephon Diggs. You just never know. You're not in control, basically, of your own stats. You know what I mean? If you're a quarterback, if you're doing a good game, you're getting all those stats. But if you're a receiver, you have to have it come to you. So just try to find consistency and, play the guys who are getting it done. Waddle had 4 targets, only caught 3 for 33, which he was only 21 yards short of what he did last week. And last week he caught about 9 more passes. So it doesn't make no sense. How crazy last week was. Brissett lost a fumble, and Jakeem Grant also lost a fumble. And their defense, no interceptions, but they had 2 sacks. Ogba had 1, and Sam Uguavion and Jalen Phillips split a sack. As far as their kicker, Jason Sanders, he made his only attempt, which is a 38-yarder, and he made both his extra point attempts as well. All right, so we'll take a look at that Colts offense. Carson Wentz, again, still not a big believer in him, but he did carry them to a win this game. Well, actually, I say Jonathan Taylor carried them to the win, but he did his part. He went 24 for 32 for 228 yards and 2 touchdowns, only added 8 yards on the ground. But as we just mentioned, Jonathan Taylor, he had 16 carries for 103 yards and a touchdown, as well as 3 receptions for 11 yards. So what's your thoughts on Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, still not too sure about him.
Yeah.
I think he's getting better.
Yeah.
But I'm still not sold on him yet. But I mean, we'll see. They're supposed to have, like I said last week, they're supposed to have the best O-line in the league.
Yeah.
So
I don't know about all that, but
that's what all the experts were saying coming into the season. So
yeah, experts, right? But Marlon Mack, whose names was in the trade block last week, so he had 10 carries for 22 yards. So he didn't do much, but they weren't able to pull off a trade quite yet for Marlon Mack. As far as the receiving corps, so Michael Pittman had 8 targets. He caught 6 for 59. So he's continuing to be the target guy there. Zach Pascal had 5 targets, caught 4 for 44. And Mo Cox, the tight end, he had 5 targets, caught 3 for 42 and 2 touchdowns. So he had both the touchdowns. So take a look at Mo Cox because he's looking like their red zone guy. It's tough though because they do like to use their other tight end, Jack Doyle. He caught his lone target for 24 yards, but that red zone target share is always something to, it's very valuable. Nyheim Hines did have a fumble. The defense had no interceptions, but they also did have 3 sacks. Kamoko Toure had 2 sacks, and Grover Stewart had 1 sack. Rodrigo Blankenship, last year he had a really great year as far as at least the first half of the year. but this year he hasn't done as much. But this game he went 2 for 2, as long as the 43, and he had 3 extra points, and he made all 3. All right, so we'll take a look at who they play next week. So the Colts next week, Monday night against the Ravens. So we'll see. I mean, Carson Wentz, he might be able to show up Monday night, knowing how important that game is, but we'll see. And the Miami Dolphins, who it's looking like their season's getting worse and worse, play the Buccaneers. So you never know, man. We can't stop any pass. We might make Brissett look like an MVP. We'll see what happens. I'll get to the Bucs in very shortly here. All right, let's talk about the old rivalry. Seattle Seahawks defeat the San Francisco 49ers 28-21. That now moves both teams to 2-2. Man, you know, we saw everything this game from Russell Wilson. I mean, it was weird because the first half of the game, Niners defense was just tearing them up. But you know, I should say first quarter, but shortly after that, they started opening it up. Russell Wilson had a touchdown to Metcalf in the second quarter, and then to start the third quarter, in the third quarter alone, the Seattle Seahawks had 3 touchdowns, so they kind of let it go after that. Did you see the game?
I was able to watch the game. Obviously, this was a highly anticipated game. You know, I feel like when both of these teams play, it's always a show.
Yeah, that's
and
true,
you can tell that they both sides hate each other. But it was a good game. I felt like Jimmy G was playing good. So when he got injured, I was a little excited for Trey Lance. I do have him on my fantasy team. So I was like, okay, you know, let's see what he does. Because I personally don't think Seattle has a defense this year like they used to in the past. He didn't do bad, but he wasn't able to score quickly though. He wasn't able to take the team down really. It was like long drives that wasted a lot of time. But yeah, man, I feel with the Niners, you just turn it over to Trey Lance already. You're 2-2 now. I know as much as you probably, like Eric had said, let groom Trey Lance.
Yeah.
But you drafted him that high. I mean, just do it already.
Yeah.
You know, and then if he does start doing bad, throw in Jimmy G back in there. Let Jimmy G get healthy. Let's see what Trey has and do it that way.
Yeah, as we mentioned, they brought in Trey Lance specifically for this reason. Jimmy G cannot stay healthy. He's a good player and he's a winner, but he cannot stay healthy for a season to save his life.
Okay, so I just thought of another thing real quick I want to add. So here's another reason why you want to start Trey. I feel like if I'm running the organization, if I'm there, I'm saying, look, let Jimmy G sit and get healthy. He might be tradable before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to start Jimmy G and trade Trey Lance.
Yeah.
So start Trey and then possibly trade Jimmy G for something that you'll need to help Trey. I don't know the contract. I don't know if Jimmy G's a free agent after this year. But if he is, let him sit and then trade him.
Yeah.
Someone's going to want him.
That's a good point. Yeah, because you're not going to want to have Jimmy G playing and then cold turkey trade.
Or him get injured, like you said, and then now he's not tradable.
Yeah.
So let him sit.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and look at the Seahawks side of things. So Russell Wilson completed 16 passes on 23 attempts. Only 149 yards but 2 touchdowns and no picks. And on the ground, he even carried 4 times for 26 yards and another touchdown. And like we said, 3 of these touchdowns came in the third quarter, and that's when they kind of ran away with it. Because the fourth quarter, Niners did score a touchdown, but wasn't able to do much else after that. And Seattle thankfully didn't need to do much else. Let me see. Alex Collins carried the ball 10 times for 44 yards and a touchdown. Chris Carson carried the ball 13 times for 30 yards. And as we mentioned, Russell Wilson had 4 carries for 26 yards and a touchdown. Now, DK Metcalf led the team in targets. He caught 4 of them for 65 yards and a touchdown. And Tyler Lockett, who's been their big play guy so far this season, he had 5 targets, but he only caught 4 for 24. So we didn't see that deep ball to Lockett this game. And
we haven't seen it for a couple weeks now. So that's a little concerning for me because I have him. So it's almost like it was Lockett the first 2 games, and now it's becoming Metcalf these past 2 games. So, man, I wish they would be hot at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. And then also, you know, kudos to the Niners defense. They were able to do well, obviously not enough, but they did well against the passing offense. But you know what? They were able to just pull it out, the Seahawks. And again, we did get to see Trey Lance this game, and Trey Lance looked pretty good. We'll get into that side in a second. Quandre Diggs had an interception. And as far as defense, they had 2 sacks. Darrell Taylor had 1, and Jordan Brooks had 1. And as far as kickers, Jason Myers had no field goal attempts, but he did make all 4 of his extra point attempts. Should we pause it? All right, and then the San Francisco 49ers side of things. So Jimmy Garappolo, before he got injured, he went 14 for 23 for 165, a touchdown and a pick. Do you have what Trey Lance did?
Yeah. He went 9 for 18, 157, 2 TDs.
Oh, wow, nice.
So it's good.
Yeah.
But it didn't start. I think the first couple drives they stalled, or they went like 3 and out. So it was kind of looking like, oh man, is Trey really even the guy?
Yeah.
Because even I was like excited to see him, but then it was like, man, I don't know. But then when he did get it going, it was very methodical. It was very slow. When they were already behind, I think like 2 touchdowns. So they needed to like, hey, let's go, let's get down the field. But but Trey was able to. I saw a highlight, and I'm pretty sure the United fans saw it, where he was able to catch the ball with one hand when it was spiked to him, and then he was able to run for it on like a 4th and long.
Yeah.
So we saw that dual threat that he gives you, and that's going to be scary to other opponents, because I feel like the NFC West has a lot of those dual threats.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and now Trey Lance. So
yeah. So as you mentioned, he went 9 for 18, 157, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, no, Trey Lance looked great. He also added 7 carries for 41 yards. We see the NFL kind of changing, and it seems like these dual threat guys are you need to have it nowadays. And the NFL likes it because it means more scoring. So Trey Lance looks really good. Interesting, to see a Niners point of view. We can probably get one next time, see, after, because you did see things you liked from him. Maybe you're now okay with him starting moving forward.
Another thing I want to note, and the Niner fans will know this because it was mentioned, nobody was expecting Trey Lance to be they didn't prepare for it.
Yeah.
And he still looked better than any rookie quarterback so far this year.
That's a good point. Yeah.
In a time where they probably didn't even have plays ready for him.
Yeah.
That showed me that they're not prepared for him. They weren't ever prepared for him to be the starter. So I would love to see him next week. Jimmy G still might play, but man, I could only imagine what a game plan that Shanahan could do, knowing that Trey Lance is the starter. So
yeah,
I would love to see that.
Now, Trey Sermon was their running back this game, so he had 19 carries for 89 yards, which is good to see. He had a pretty good game. But Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, Deebo, man.
So 13 targets, 8 receptions, 156 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They could not stop him.
I got to say, just real quickly, as a Cowboy fan, right, the rivalry goes back with the Niners. This Deebo Samuel dude makes you like the Niners.
Yeah,
he's really good, man. He's dope.
Yeah,
he's fun to watch. And I don't even hate on it. You're just watching him. You're just in amazement the whole time. Like, man, this dude is just
you
legit.
See Samuel on the back of the jersey, and you're like, wow, he's good. It's good to see George Kittle had 10 targets, but he only caught 4 for 40. But that target share is nice. And I was seeing something that he might be injured or might have got injured. Well,
I don't know. I must
not
have
sure. But Kyle Juszczyk, they used him in the running game last week a lot more. This week he didn't have no rushing attempts, but he did have 4 receptions for 41 yards. I think when they run Kyle Juszczyk, it keeps the defense a bit more honest, because he's one of those old school bruiser running backs you don't see very often.
Yeah.
Mohamed Sanu, he had 5 targets, caught 4 for 35, and then Ross Dwelle, he's the he's the other one who caught the touchdown. But his came from Garappolo, whereas Deebo's both came from Trey Lance. Trenton Cannon did lose a fumble. And as far as the defense, they had 3 sacks on Russell. So Nick Bosa had 1 and D Ford had 2. And as far as kicking, Wishnowski, he missed his only attempt, and he only made 1 of 2 extra points.
Well, he's not there. That's their punter, though. So we should mention that.
Yeah. So he was filling in for their injured kicker.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Don't pick up Wishnowski.
Yeah. I don't even know if punters are available in fantasy, but
yeah,
stay away from that guy.
So the Niners next week will be going up against the only undefeated team in Arizona Cardinals, and the Seahawks next week will be going up against, which is the Thursday night game, the Rams. So that's going to be a good one to watch on Thursday night.
Just on record, I'm gonna be rooting for the Niners because at this point, Cowboys 3-1 and Arizona 4-0. I mean, we want to go for those seeds, right?
Top two seeds.
So
Get a bye.
Hey, let's go Niners.
Nice. Yep. Good point. I agree as a Buck fan. All right, so let's move to the next game. So Arizona Cardinals, as we just mentioned, the only undefeated team remaining, defeat the Los Angeles Rams 37-20. So Arizona is now 4-0, and Los Angeles Rams are now 3-1. And as we mentioned, last week we're like, oh, it's going to be a great game. It was going to be a great game. It was a great game for one of these teams.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting what happened. Kyler Murray, again, so I think Kyler Murray and Patrick Mahomes are kind of elevating themselves as the top two as far as MVP. So he went 24 for 32, 268 yards and 2 touchdowns with no picks. And he added 6 rushes for 39 yards. But what I am surprised to see is what Chase Edmonds did. So Chase Edmonds had a really good game.
Man.
Yeah, so he had 12 carries, but on those 12 carries, 120 yards. So do the math. That's a first down every carry.
Yeah.
So
seriously.
That's crazy. And he even added 4 receptions for 19 yards. But Chase Edmonds had a great game. But the thing is with this Arizona offense, James Conner, he's still, if you have Chase Edmonds, he's doing enough to get you a good amount of points every week. But James Conner, when you see him come in the red zone and always taking the red zone touchdowns, you're just like, yeah, I hate it.
Yeah.
But, it might be better for the team more so.
Yeah.
But James Conner had 18 carries for 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. And we already mentioned Kyler Murray had 6 carries for 39. And again, they try to use Rondale Moore in the running game again. He had 2 carries for 9 yards. Now this offense, so DeAndre Hopkins, he had the most targets this game. He had 4 for 67. So we saw a lot of get back right games from big names who haven't been here this year. DeAndre Hopkins still having a tough time.
Yeah, we did mention that, and I remember saying, nah, he's gonna get his, but now I'm a little worried.
Yeah.
But again, was Jalen Ramsey on him?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
So then you got okay, but
then 4 for 67 even looks better.
Yeah.
That with Jalen Ramsey, that's like 150.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see what you mean. But yeah, I understand Jalen Ramsey, and then it's tough right now. And then next week they play the Niners, so it might get a bit easier because their secondary is a bit banged up as well. AJ Green had 6 targets. He caught 5 for 67 and a touchdown. And Max Williams had 5 targets, caught all 5 for 66 and a touchdown. And then Rondale Moore, who we mentioned, he had 3 targets, caught all 3 for 28. And we already mentioned the running backs. Chase Edmonds, 4 for 19. James Conner, 2 for 16. Christian Kirk didn't do much this game. He only had 1 target.
Yeah, he's kind of
for 5 yards.
He's one of those guys where he's either going to be involved that game or kind of not, and just wasn't this game. So
yeah, it seems like this offense, the most consistent thing is so far surprisingly AJ Green, who I had to apologize to last week. Outside, and Chase Edmonds, because he gets so many targets. But outside of that, it's this offense puts up so many points. I mean, other than Kyler Murray, of course, but this offense puts up so many points. You got to flip the coin.
Yeah.
And run these guys out. Byron Murphy again had another pick against Stafford. Kudos to Byron Murphy. He's having a great year so far. And but this defense had no sacks. So that's interesting to see. Matt Prater, their field goal kicker, went 3 for 3, his longest a 55-yarder, and he made all 4 of his extra points. Now the Rams side of the ball. So Stafford went 26 for 41 for 280 yards, and he got 2 touchdowns, but threw 1 pick. Man, it seems so. What it looks like, they were able to limit Stafford.
Yes, Stafford was on fire, or was on fire.
Yeah.
So this game kind of.
Yes, they did a really good job. Yeah. So and then Darrell Henderson. So now the running game. So he had 14 carries for 89 yards, no touchdowns. Stafford was even trying to get involved in the run game. He had 6 carries for 21 yards. And then Sony Michel always coming in vulturing just a few of those carries. He had 3 for 11, which, just play Darrell Henderson.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp, he's been balling out every week. Even this game, he had 13 targets, But I think Arizona saw that and said, you know what, that's who we'll take out, and let's see what you can do without him. So with those 13 targets, he only caught 5 for 64, no touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, they might have exposed something there. If you could limit Cooper Kupp, then you have a really good chance at beating the Rams. So we'll see what happens with that. Van Jefferson had 6 targets. He caught all 6 for 90 and a touchdown. Robert Woods had a touchdown. So he had 6 targets, caught 4 for 48 and a touchdown. It's good to see that for Robert Woods. Did you say you had Robert Woods in the beginning of the year?
No, I didn't have Robert Woods, but remember, we're talking about the fact that Cooper Kupp was doing so well that some people were like, man, what happened to Robert Woods?
Yeah.
Because Robert Woods was highly drafted as well. So I like what you mentioned, that Arizona said, you know what, we're going to shut down Cooper Kupp. So now finally you see Robert Woods get a touchdown.
Yeah.
Just because of what Arizona did at Kupp. But again, Robert Woods didn't have the game that you would think he would, considering they were focused on Kupp.
And he kept still trying to force it to Kupp.
13 targets still.
Yeah.
So, man, Stafford, he's in love with Cooper Kupp, but man, you got to share the targets, man.
Yeah. Now, Tyler Higbee, again, here we go. Tight end, 6 targets, caught 4 for 36. And Darrell Henderson, the running back we mentioned, he had 6 targets. He caught 5 for 27. Sony Michel lost a fumble in this game. Their defense had no picks, but they did have 3 sacks. Sebastian Joseph Day had 1, Leonard Floyd had 1, and Terrell Lewis had 1. And then their kicker, Matt Gay, he made 2 of 3 field goals, and his longest was a 42-yarder, and he made both his extra points. So, interesting to see. As we mentioned, Cardinals will be playing against the Niners next week, and then the Rams, give me a second, the Thursday night game will be playing against the Seahawks. So both of these are interdivisional games, so there's going to be some really good games. All right, now let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who lost to the Green Bay Packers 27-17. Pittsburgh now moves to 1-3, and Green Bay, after that week 1, moved now to 3-1, and they won 3 in a row. How about this? Any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Ben Roethlisbergr again. I feel like that's the ongoing theme every week.
Yeah,
we're just not seeing the Ben of old.
Yeah, and we keep, trying to find out reasons why every week. But when you find yourself trying to make excuses or reasons why every week, then maybe you just don't have it anymore,
Yeah.
I remember seeing the meme of Juju looking at the tablet, throwing it on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah, that's already been memed out of oblivion now. But Juju's he's gonna be a meme guy until he retires.
Yeah.
But Aaron Rodgers, kudos, getting that dub. Ben Roethlisbergr, so we'll go into it. So the Pittsburgh side of things, he went 26 for 40 for 232 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 pick. Najee Harris has been looking better and better every week. I mean, he had so many targets last week, but this week, I mean, he's kind of got better on the ground. 15 carries for 62 yards and a touchdown, so you got that average up.
Yeah.
And it's good to see Deontay Johnson back. He had 13 targets, caught 9 of them for 92 and a touchdown. And you know what? As far as the rest of this offense, Najee Harris had 7 targets, caught 6 for 29. It really ain't worth mentioning. I mean, Juju had 8 targets. He only caught 2 of them for 11 yards.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder if Chase Claypool was in this game, would have helped any, but
yeah.
Man, it just, like we talked about, this is not what we expect from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like,
yeah,
it's happening to them.
Yeah, I guess, they've been kind of rotating that wide receiver door, but it looks like they may need all the guys to go. And again, here I go making excuses for Roethlisbergr, but it might just be it for him.
Yeah.
I guess we should mention James Washington had 5 targets, caught 4 for 69, but outside of that, really don't look good. Eric Ebron, their tight end, only had 2 targets for 8 yards. So Roethlisbergr, on top of that interception, had a lost fumble as well, which Green Bay was able to go and take advantage of and get a touchdown. It was old man to old man, Aaron Rodgers to Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb, we'll talk about it in a second. Now the defense, no interceptions, but they did have 3 sacks. TJ Watt had 2 and Devin Bush had 1. Now I was in a dilemma this past week because I had New England defense, Pittsburgh defense, and Arizona defense.
Ooh.
So it's either New England versus my Bucks. I don't want to do that because I don't want to root for New England. Pittsburgh versus Green Bay, which Green Bay, I mean, Aaron Rodgers burning
MVP.
the world. And then Arizona versus the Rams, who I just saw what they did to my Bucks. But so I fired up Pittsburgh, and because obviously TJ Watt was playing, and they did just enough. But again, that was a tough dilemma. I had to mention that I was in. Now, the Packers side of things. So Aaron Rodgers went 20 for 36 for 248 and 2 touchdowns and no picks. I seen a lot of AJ Dillon this week. I heard that, Aaron Jones maybe wasn't 100%. So they split the carries right in half. Both of them had 15 carries, but AJ Dillon, he had 81 yards on those 15 attempts, and Aaron Jones had 48 yards.
But I do feel like the reason why we saw that is because the game was already over by third quarter.
Good point. Yeah, that could be a possibility. And I forgot to mention, Aaron Rodgers also added 1 on the ground, a touchdown, rushing touchdown. So he had 3 on the day total. Now we talked about him, Randall Cobb. So he had 6 targets. He caught 5 for 69, and 2 of those were touchdowns. So it's good to see Randall Cobb.
But would you add Randall Cobb on fantasy?
I mean, sure. It depends, how deep my league is. I would say it depends. I'm in a 12-team league. I would take him gladly. But
I personally feel like I wouldn't. I feel like I want to see it done consistently.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't personally. For me on my team, I wouldn't add Randall Cobb.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about him. So Devontae Adams had 11 targets and he caught 6 for 64. So Devontae finally had a somewhat of a down game. And Aaron Jones, he had 4 targets, caught 3 of them for 51. So he did quite enough. Robert Tonyan he had 7 targets, but he only caught 2 of them for 8 yards. So, it doesn't matter. They got the win. They're now 3-1. Aaron Jones did lose a fumble in this game, but again, he should get more healthy and again become one of the more elite backs. Eric Stokes did have a interception on that defense, and their defense as a group had 2 sacks. Rashawn Gary had 1, and Kingsley Keek had 1 as well. Mason Crosby went 2 for 2, and as far as extra points, he made all 3 attempts. So Pittsburgh next week, if they can get back right, they play against the Broncos, the 3-1 Broncos, and the Green Bay Packers will go up against the Cincinnati Bengals, who are both 3-1. So that should be an interesting game. Joe Burrow versus Aaron Rodgers. It's going to be a good one to watch. All right, so the next game we'll take a look at is one of those teams, the Denver Broncos. They lose to the Baltimore Ravens 23-7, and both teams now move to 3-1. Did you catch any of this game?
No.
I don't blame you. Both these offenses, other than Lamar Jackson, Broncos ain't a team. We even said it last week. We said, we'll see what happens this week.
Yeah.
Are they a for real 3-0 team?
Yep.
And we just found out. So they're
Teddy
now
Bridgewater got hurt.
Yeah.
So there was that, but
man, as soon as they play a competitive team,
yeah,
Bridgewater's hurt.
Yep.
So, but Drew Lock came in and threw a pick. But yeah, as a total, they only scored 7 points, and that was on one of the Bridgewater passes to Noah Fant, who he had 10 targets, caught 6 for 46. Cortland Sutton had 8 targets, but only caught 3 for 47. It's funny because their rushing game, they ran really well this game. Melvin Gordon had 9 carries for 56 yards, and Javonte Williams had 7 carries for 48 yards. So combined, they were about 6.5 yards per carry. Surprising to see they didn't try to run the ball more. Tim Patrick had 6 attempts. He only caught 3 for 39. Yeah, other than that, this offense wasn't able to do much. Drew Lock went 12 for 21 in relief for Bridgewater for 113 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And Bridgewater went 7 of 16 for 65 yards and that lone touchdown the Broncos had. The Ravens side of the ball, so Lamar Jackson had a fairly good game. He went 22 for 37, 316 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, but he added 7 carries for 28 yards. Latavius Murray, what happened to
Tyson Williams or something like that?
Yeah.
I think they
Tyson.
They didn't activate him.
Interesting.
So I think he's pretty much done.
Yeah, so Latavius Murray had 18 carries for 59 yards and a touchdown, and it looks like Le'Veon Bell is getting some action. He had 4 carries for 11 yards. So, It looks like they're trying to slowly get these guys going. It was Tyson Williams, which I thought Tyson looked really good.
Man, he looked really good when he was playing.
I mean, he had a down week last week, but I don't think he deserved the doghouse for that. But yeah, it looks like Latavius Murray, as of this game, was the guy. Going forward, keep your eye out. We don't know who it is, but so keep your ears to the ground on the reports and see what's going to happen with that. Mark Andrews led the team in targets. He had 8. But he caught 5 of them for 67 yards. The lone passing touchdown went to Marquise Brown. He had 5 targets, caught 4 for 91. Did you see that one of his catches though? The highlight?
No,
dude, it was like one of those ones you dream of. It was a long bomb, and then he dove for it, caught it. That's one of those catches you dream of as a kid, man. Those
Hollywood.
Yep, Hollywood. And it's funny because his cousin had a chance to make the exact same catch. We'll go into that game in a bit, but yeah, Antonio Brown. So yeah, but he didn't even dive. He's like, yeah, I've done enough my career. But so yeah, Marquise Brown, he's having a really good season. James Proche had 6 targets, caught 5 for 74. Sammy Watkins had 7 targets, caught 4 for 49, and Devin Duvernay had 6 targets, caught 3 for 31. Anthony Everett on their defense had an interception, and then as a defense, they had 5 sacks. So they did really good getting in that backfield. Odafe Alway had 1, Metabuke had 1, Tyus Bowser had 2, and Justin Houston had 1. So they did a really good job. Goat Tucker, he went 3 for 3, his longest being a 40-46, and he made both his extra points. So do you even have to wonder if he missed anything?
Nope.
No. Automatic Tucker.
Automatic.
Or just in time, right?
Just in time Tucker.
All right, next week, Baltimore Ravens, as we mentioned, is the Monday night game against the Colts. And the Denver Broncos, keep your eye out, see if Bridgewater's healthy for that game. The Denver Broncos will be taking on the Steelers. So it's going to be interesting to see who wins that game. All right, let's go ahead now. Let's move on to your boys. They defeat the Carolina Panthers 36-28. Both teams now move to 3-1. All right, talk about them. What happened? What'd you see?
Cowboys, I expected them to win this game. There were some people, that were saying Panthers, the fact that they're 3-0, they were the number 1 ranked defense in the entire NFL. But they hadn't really much played anybody. So this was going to be a good time for them. And then, mind you, they were out without McCaffrey. So I felt like the Cowboys did what they needed to do. They beat this team. But it's the way they beat them that was, again, more interesting to me. I keep saying it week in and week out. Cowboys defense, Trayvon Diggs is really I haven't seen a corner like this on the Cowboys since
Deion Sanders. Exactly.
So it's nice to see because Cowboys for the past some odd years I think last year they were dead last in defense total. So the fact that our defense can now have some studs and look good.
Yeah.
So, and Dak Prescott didn't need to do much this game.
Yeah.
So we fed Zeke, and good things happen when we feed Zeke.
Mm-hmm.
So
he didn't need to do much, but he still got 4 touchdowns. Yeah.
Which is crazy because I saw after the game, he was like, because he didn't have over 200 yards.
Yeah.
So he's like, wait, what? I didn't even reach 200. So
yeah.
But 4 touchdowns. He was throwing touchdowns rather than getting the yards.
Yeah, I saw obviously the highlights. I saw Trayvon Diggs getting pick after pick, or what was it? 2 picks?
2 picks.
2 picks. Yeah. Stop throwing the ball to Trayvon Diggs. Diggs Island, man. Stop it. He's, man, like I said, Pro Bowl's a shoo-in so far. Yeah. All right. So let's get into the stats. So as we mentioned, Dak Prescott, he had under 200 yards. He went 14 of 22 for 188 yards passing, but 4 touchdowns, no picks. And I think what happened is, as you mentioned, they got there on the legs of Zeke, Pollard, and even Dak was able to get it done with his legs as well.
Yeah.
And then so once they got down there, Zeke was able to get one of those touchdowns, and Dak was able to get 4 of them in the red zone. But Zeke, let's go into it, had 20 carries for 143 yards and 1 touchdown. Man, what a game for Zeke. He had 1 target, but he was not able to overcome on that. I know you've had your thoughts about Zeke, and you had your thoughts. What's your thoughts so far?
I like Zeke. I like the fact that I feel him and Pollard complement each other.
Yeah,
well.
you mentioned that. Yeah.
So I like the fact that Zeke gets in there. He pounds the guys. He looks for contact.
Yeah.
And he did have one of his longest runs since like a couple years.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have the speed. So I like when Pollard gets in there. He's just that burst of just speed and quickness, elusiveness. So they complement each other very well. I wouldn't want one without the other.
You know what? It's a good point because I was watching, I think it was last week's game. Who'd you guys play?
We played the Eagles.
The Eagles. Yeah. So when Zeke is in there, he's running straight at you, looking for contact. And so guys are ready, bracing up, to take that hit. And then Pollard comes in there the next play, and they kind of got Zeke on their minds, ready to come and straight for him. But Pollard is completely avoiding them, so they're like out of position.
Yep.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, this duo back here. Now I will say that the Tony Pollard, you may not be able to trust as far as fantasy as much. He had that crazy week 2, but Zeke's looking like an all-season stud. Pollard, we'll talk about, it had 10 carries for 67 yards, which him alone is a 6.7 yards average. And I don't think we mentioned it, but Dak had 4 carries for 35 yards. You know what I love about this, what Dak did this game?
What's that?
He spread the love.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper had a touchdown. Dalton Schultz had a touchdown. Ced Wilson had a touchdown. And Blake Jarwin had a touchdown. I feel bad for CeeDee Lamb because he's been, before this game, looking like the best receiver out there. But I love that Dak spread the love. It builds up the rapport with your guys all season long.
And you know what? The fact that CD hasn't been getting one past, let's see. Well, he didn't get one this game, but if you do have CD, start him this week because one thing Dak said in the interview, again, because I watched the Cowboys radio and the interviews, he was telling Amari Cooper, like, hey, man, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you.
Yeah.
So he wants to keep his guys happy.
Exactly.
So that's pretty cool to hear that.
Yeah, and I think he did just that, the way he was able to spread the love. So as we mentioned, Amari Cooper had 3 receptions for 69 yards and that touchdown. Dalton Schultz led the team in targets. He caught 6 of them for 58 and that touchdown. Ced Wilson, with the touchdown, had 2 targets. He caught both for 30 yards. And Blake Jarwin, although targeted 3 times, he only caught 1 for 18 yards, and that was the touchdown. And CD, he had 5 targets. He only caught 2 of them for 13 yards. I don't have anywhere here that Tony Pollard had any targets.
No, I didn't.
No targets? No, that's it's odd to see because before this, Pollard was getting a good handful of targets every game. But Trayvon Diggs, man, hey, if I'm a Dallas fan, I'm buying his jersey because he is taking that defense and putting it on his back. So Dallas fans should put his name on their backs as well. And as a defense, they had 5 total sacks as well. Randy Gregory had 2. Terrell Basham had 1. Micah Parsons had 1. Again, rookie, looking really good. And Chauncey Golson and Osei, maybe help me out with that.
Odigizua.
They split a sack as well. Real quick, before we leave this defense and sacks, there was a surprising release this morning.
Yeah.
From the Dallas side.
Well, it was yesterday, right? Jalen Smith.
Yesterday.
He signed today with the Packers. Yeah, I didn't really understand that. He's not a bad player.
Yeah, he had 1 tackle this past game. I mean, I'm not sure how many snaps.
Yeah, he was on the top 100 player list just like 2 years ago.
He was a Pro Bowler.
Yeah. So I mean, why? I mean, we cut him. I can see if maybe they're trying to save some cap. Maybe
traded him.
Trade him something.
Look at what New England just did.
Yeah. 6th rounder for
you're
Stephon
dropped.
Gilmore.
Oh, wait. Teams are interested. 6th rounder. I mean, Dallas.
Look how fast he got picked up by the Packers. Like, man, he's gonna make the Packers defense nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jerry Jones. Hey, learn from Bill.
Yeah, I don't know what Jerry Jones was thinking on that one. I mean,
but
whatever.
Yeah, that was a surprising cut. So I just wanted to mention that. Hopefully, it doesn't really negatively affect or impact this defense, who are having a great year. But we'll see. Greg Zuerlein, he went 1 for 1. It was a 37-yarder, and he made all 3 of his attempts on extra points. The Panthers side of the ball, so we were wondering, Sam Darnold, is it real? Well, he went 26 for 39 for 301 yards, got 2 touchdowns, but he also threw those 2 picks to Trayvon Diggs. And Sam Darnold also added 6 carries for 35 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Sam Darnold, even right here, other than Trayvon Diggs, he had a good game. Yeah, he had an amazing game.
But the only thing, his stats are a little misleading because By the third quarter,
It was
I
over.
was watching the game. Yeah, the Cowboys, they even took Diggs out.
Yeah.
So after his second pick, Diggs was done the rest of the game.
Yeah, both the touchdowns Sam Darnold threw to were DJ Moore in the fourth quarter, and it was.
So they took out a lot of starters on defense. And even I was watching it with my brother and my dad, and we're like, man, what are they doing? Because then it even got close, and it's like, it's not championship teams. Like, yeah, I guess you want to keep your guys healthy, but you would like to see them close it out strong.
Yeah. And then the hottest pickup guy this past week, Chuba Hubbard, he only went 13 carries for 57 yards, and he only had 2 targets for 14 yards. So, like I mentioned, sometimes these backups, you can see what their guys ahead of them are doing, be like, oh, he's going to do the exact same.
No,
not Chuba. I mean, not
McCaffrey's
yet. McCaffrey's
back at practice today. So,
yeah, so fire up McCaffrey season. And as we mentioned, Sam Darnold had 6 carries for 35 yards and 2 touchdowns. And DJ Moore, although they were garbage time touchdowns, he had 12 targets, 8 receptions, 113 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's still getting it done for you every week, So their defense weren't able to keep him in this game. Again, they were able to acquire Stephon Gilmore this week
after just acquiring CJ Henderson.
And then Stephon Gilmore won't be available until week 7. But
and they might get JC Horn back in December. I mean, they got some corners now.
Listen, I mentioned it after the week 2 that they did a Madden simulation and Carolina Panthers went on to win the Super Bowl. I feel like the players knew that and the GM knew that, and they said, you know what, let's make that come true. I don't know.
Yeah.
But although they lost this game, Panthers it looks like they're in win now mode.
Yeah.
Which is very surprising because they were in rebuild mode just last year.
Yep.
After losing Cam. So very interesting to see. Robbie Anderson had 11 targets, caught 5 for 46, which is great to see for Robbie. Outside of that, I mean, you didn't see too much. You had 5 catches for Rodney Smith and 48. We already mentioned Chuba Hubbard. So yeah, Dallas did really good. It seems like everything just went through DJ Moore. And yeah, let's go ahead and look at the defensive side of things. They had no picks and no sacks. Man.
Yeah.
That Dallas offense did what they had to do and got out of there with their jersey still clean.
Yep.
So really good job to Dallas. Carolina, and I'm glad to see this as well.
Yeah.
As a Bug fan, right? 3-1, get NFC South. So yeah. Oh, and by the way, with that Stephon Gilmore, so we all thought he was released this morning. So everybody's like, oh, I want Niners to get him. Oh, I want Bucks to get him. I was really hoping for that, Tom. I mean, they have that past relationship.
Yep.
But then 5 minutes later, nope, traded to Panthers for a 6th rounder. And I said, ooh, he's doing that to spite Tom, right? In the same division. We haven't even played them yet. So we're going to see. I mean, Bill, you sly guy.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because they do play him later this year too. So
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. All right. But next week, the Dallas Cowboys, as we mentioned, play against the 1-3 Giants, and the Carolina Panthers play the Eagles. Yeah, that's going to be, I guess Panthers should win, but Jalen Hurts has been showing a lot of improvement. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's talk about my boy breaking records and breaking hearts. All right, so now the new NFL leader in all-time passing yards, Tom Brady, went to New England and defeated the Patriots 19-17. This game was crazy. I want to get your thoughts first, actually, with this one. Were you able to watch it?
I was able to watch it. Oh, yeah. I think everybody was excited to see Tom Brady, TB12, go home.
The lead up to this game was crazy.
The golden one, the chosen one, finally back.
Yeah.
Belichick versus Tom Brady. And it was a lot closer than I thought it would be.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Everybody thought.
I do feel like the weather, it was raining a bit,
time.
and I feel like it affected both sides.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady, man,
maybe.
I like what he said at the end, man. He said it doesn't matter how you win. At the end of the day, the wins collect the same. So he found a way to win yet again.
Yeah. In
that hostile environment because, they wanted Tom Brady to lose. Yeah, they cheered for him, but they still wanted him to lose.
Yeah, so let me go into, my thoughts as the game was unfolding before we get into the stats. So first, there's the whole drama, the lead up. Brady, it's his night. He's probably going to break the record. They're even saying they're going to stop the game for him once he breaks the record, like they did for Drew Brees.
Yeah,
they didn't. Of course, they didn't. So the beginning of the game, what I noticed is we started passing out of the gate. Did not rush attempt very much, if at all. And I think also because of all the buildup, Brady, you could tell he had some nerves. He was throwing a lot of balls high. I thought he was eventually going to settle in. It really seems like he didn't. Obviously, they got enough done to get the win. But I think also they realized, okay, you know what, we're not passing very well. Let's start running the ball. But
do you think a lot of that has to do with Belichick just knowing Brady well?
Yeah, you know what?
And then with the rain,
Yeah, so they're even taking they're trying to check, who's going to win, Patriots or Bucks. And all the ex-Patriots players said Patriots. And that made me think, like, I never really thought about it. They know Tom. And they showed it.
They know his weaknesses. They're the coach. They coached him. So they know what,
22 for 43. So, I mean, they definitely held Tom down. But, and then I'm just thankful that at the end, before I get there, so the record-breaking pass went to who? My boy, Mike Evans. I was so happy about that. Even the commenters were like, oh, they moved the ball up an extra yard.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm happy it's Mike Evans.
Yeah.
It's my second favorite player of all time next to Michael Irvin. But, I'm glad that went to Mike Evans. And Mike Evans, he didn't have the best game, but he was even begging for the ball at one point. But we'll go into it. Before we do, I'm sorry to keep backtracking like this, but the game ended in a back-to-back field goal fest in the fourth quarter. So Suck Up, he had missed the field goal earlier in that game, and he definitely made up for it. He made the late one in the fourth quarter to put us up. New England came right back and put them up by 1 point because of their field goal kicker. Suck Up came back and put up a field goal, and then they drove right back and had an attempt at a 54-yarder, I believe.
Yeah.
And thankfully,
56, I think, right?
Yeah, some 54, 56. And Nick Folk thankfully missed it.
Doink.
Yeah. And it looked good. It really did. I thought
it was good too.
And there would have been about 54 seconds left, I think. So I thought, and we had 2 timeouts. So I didn't think it was over. But once he missed that, I was just like, man, that was too stressful.
Yeah.
But let's go into the stats. Tom Brady went 22 for 43 for 269, 0 touchdowns, but 0 picks. Again, he was airing them high. It seems like he just didn't want to throw a pick. Broke the record. I still got to show respect. Also, the first player to ever beat 32 teams.
Yeah.
So, all right, Tom, kudos, the GOAT. Leonard Fournette had 20 carries for 92 yards. And Ronald Jones had 6 carries for 25 yards and a touchdown. It's looking like Fournette's backfield at this point.
Yep.
And I think it would have been last year as well, but he really was still upset that he was released by the Jags. Mike Evans had 12 targets, which led the team. He caught 7 for 75, and he was begging for the ball at one point. And Antonio Brown, he had 11 targets, caught 7 for 63, and he missed a deep ball where he just dropped it. Again, it was a rainy game, so I don't blame our guys too much. However, on the New England side of things, they were catching everything. So I'm a little bit peeved by that. I wish our guys would have caught the ball a lot more. Chris Godwin, we didn't see him till pretty late in the game. He had 5 targets, caught 3 for 55. Fournette, as well as his 90 yards on the ground, 92. He had 3 receptions for 47 yards on 5 attempts. And Cameron Brate, because Gronk was out, and I feel so bad. I wish Gronk could have played this game, but, we saw the reports about multiple rib fractures and everything, and a punctured lung. So I hope he's doing well. But Cameron Brate came in, had 6 targets, only caught 2 for 29. Our defense, I got to talk about it. Richard Sherman, now he allowed every completion under the sun. And I ain't mad at he pretty much woke up last week and now he's in an NFL game. But our secondary, we try blitzing so much, but it leaves a guy open every time and they complete it every time. We make Mac Jones look really good.
Yeah.
And every other week he has not looked this good. Antoine Winfield did have a pick, which I was glad to see, but he got hurt. Our other corner, Carlton Davis, got hurt this game. So imagine when I saw Stephon Gilmore was released this morning. That didn't happen. So we definitely need our secondary. We need something happening back there because it's looking rough. Our rookie defensive end had 2 sacks, Joe Tryon. That was good to see. One was on a stunt where he just had a free run at the quarterback. Shaq Barrett, he had a sack, and William Golson had a really good sack as well. Now, our field goal kicker, who I mentioned, Ryan Suckup, he went 4 for 5. Definitely redeemed himself on that missed kick with the game winner, which turned out to be the game winner at the end. And he made the single extra point attempt. Even the game started wonky because our kicker, who's usually so good, he ended up kicking out of bounds. So they took the ball over at the 40.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it started very odd. All right, the other side of the ball. So Mac Jones went 31 for 40. He had 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that pick. Even Jacoby Myers, they ran a couple trick plays. He went 2 for 2 for 45.
Yeah.
So
he got an arm too.
Yeah, I seen a meme where they're like, "Oh, Belichick never runs trick plays," but versus Tom, he's like, is showing. That's not fair. Jacoby Myers has now done that a few times, but
yeah.
And like I mentioned, nobody could run against the Bucs. They only had 8 total attempts for -1 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
Damian Harris had 4 carries for -4 yards. The only guy who got positive yardage was Nelson Aguilar. He had 1 carry for 4 yards. But the problem is we can't stop the pass.
Mm-hmm.
Jacoby Myers had 12 targets. He caught 8 for 70. Kendrick Bourne caught 5 for 58. Nelson Aguilar caught 3 for 55 on five targets. Excuse me. Brandon Bolden caught all 6 attempts for 51 yards. Hunter Henry had one of the touchdown catches. Oh, okay. So this is funny. So those tight ends we talked about, we're like, avoid them.
Yeah.
Both of them got a touchdown.
Yep. Of course they would now.
Yeah. Even at one point in the game, I think Mac Jones like broke a record for rookie quarterbacks. He went 18 straight pass attempts completed.
Yeah.
Man, come on, Bucs. Come on. We should be a lot better than this, especially what we did in the playoffs. Find that special thing again. Come on, guys. We needed JJ Taylor to lose that fumble, which he did late in the game, which definitely helped us. Matt Judon definitely wrecked us. Even Brady after the game was like, "Are you trying to kill me?" Yeah, Matt Judon had a game. He had 1 sack, but he was in the backfield all night against Donovan Smith, which I have thoughts on Donovan Smith, but we won the Super Bowl last year with him, so I'm not going to say too much. And we kept Brady clean all season, clean enough. Nick Folk, he made 1 of 2 of his field goals. Thankfully, the missed one was that 50-some yarder for the winner. Glad he missed that, but he made both his extra points. And yeah, I was surprised they dropped Stephon Gilmore, but I'm glad our Bucs got the win. But our defense is just hurting, getting hurt more and more every week. So even Antoine Winfield got hurt that game. We need him very badly. So Bucs this week will take on the Dolphins at home. Hopefully that's a get back right game for us. I mean, with Brady, it should be. And then the New England Patriots, as we mentioned, will be playing against the Houston Texans. All right, the final game on our lineup is the Las Vegas Raiders lose to the Los Angeles Chargers 14-28. Both teams are now 3-1. We were watching this game, rooting for the Raiders for our uncle, Malcolm, as well as I have quite a bit of Raiders players on both of my fantasy teams.
Same here.
So what was your thoughts on the game as this was going?
Man, I was thinking, what's going on here? Like, you know how I feel about Carr this season. He's my MVP conversation.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I didn't see the MVP guy this game.
Yeah. And he was doing it against really tough defenses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Cowboys, as a Cowboy fan, we just played the Chargers 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we beat them. So I truly do feel like, man, Cowboys played them a good time because right after that week, if you saw what the Chargers did, they beat the Chiefs over there, and then now beat the last undefeated team in the Raiders.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm like,
second to last, Arizona.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, Arizona. So AFC, they were the last AFC undefeated team. Yeah. So I was like, man, Cowboys. I'm glad we played them when we did because I feel like the Chargers from here on out, they're going to be really hot because that's 2 good teams they beat.
Yeah.
Back-to-back weeks.
Yeah. I was watching this game and Herbert, well, I only caught the first half of this game because it was pretty much over by half. It felt like, although we'll get into what happened in the second half. Herbert's ball, man, I don't know what's the correct way to say it. He's a surgeon. And it's funny because I said the same thing about Patrick Mahomes when I first saw Patrick Mahomes. But Justin Herbert, man, he's really, really good throwing the ball. And they look really good as well. But yeah, so the game started 21-0 by half. And then sure enough, third quarter, touchdown scored 2 unanswered touchdowns. So it was 21-14. But after that, Chargers scored another touchdown with Eckler, and they could not stop Eckler this game.
Yeah.
And they finished it with that 28-14. We'll go ahead and look at the Raiders side of the ball first. So Derek Carr went 21 of 34 for 196, 2 touchdowns and a pick. You know, I got to give credit to Chargers defense, and they're available in one of my leagues.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, they keep going up teams who are like, oh, they look like a tough team. Even this upcoming week, they got the Browns. Might be more confident, but now we don't know how they'll do against that running game of the Browns.
Yeah, that's true.
But so you always have these ifs about the Chargers defense, but they get it done every week.
Yeah,
so
getting it done.
I might just have to go ahead and pull that trigger. But yeah, Derek Carr, 196, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Josh Jacobs was back this game. He had 13 carries for 40 yards. And Peyton Barber only had 1 carry. Well, we should have expected that with Josh Jacobs back. As far as the receivers, Hunter Renfrow, that was probably the highlight of the game. Did you see the Hunter Renfrow hit?
Yeah. It was a fake punt.
Fake punt. And then the receiver looked wide open, and it looked like
it came out of nowhere and just boom.
Hunter Renfrow, one of the smartest plays ever, because he noticed it before the kick, and he was already cheating up.
Yeah.
And as soon as he saw the ball go out there,
he over there,
jetted and hit him hard, made him incomplete.
It's funny too because when I watched that replay, the sideline of the Chargers are all happy. They're like, because he was wide open. And then they're already starting to celebrate. And then it's like, as soon as he gets the ball, just boom, the ball came out. It was like, no, their hands went from like that to like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
So,
you know, players like that who show that kind of football IQ, I want them in every aspect of the game. If you could find a way to put Hunter Renfrow on defense, do it. I mean, that you can't teach that kind of football smarts.
Yeah.
It's just true. I know people will hate on that, but so Hunter Renfrow had 8 targets, caught 6 for 45 and a touchdown. Darren Waller, I mean, he gets a lot of targets. He had 7. He only caught 4 for 50 and a touchdown. And then Henry Ruggs, he had 6 targets. He caught 3 for 60 yards.
Oh, press pause.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and look at the Raiders side of the defense. Only 2 sacks, but they were both from Darius Philon. And as we mentioned, Daniel Carlson, 0 for 1 as far as field goals, but made both his extra points. So, you know, he's played a lot better, and he should do better than this. But Chargers defense, did really good. Let's look at the Chargers side of the ball. So Herbert went 25 for 38. 222 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. And really this game, because a lot of people going into Monday night had a lot rolling on Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I seen that everywhere. Thankfully I had my game wrapped up before that game. But a lot of people had a lot, and they only needed like 2 or 3 catches from Mike Williams. And it didn't happen, which is hilarious. Mike Williams only caught 1 for 11. It's just funny because what I noticed this game is Austin Eckler did everything. They didn't need much from their receivers because Eckler, 15 carries, 117 yards, 1 touchdown. One was that huge touchdown at the end. Even had a touchdown in the receiving game as well. He had 3 catches on 5 targets for 28 yards and a touchdown. And their tight ends look great as well. The first touchdown went to Donald Parham. He had 3 targets, caught 2 for 17 and a touchdown. And Jared Cook later on had 7 targets, caught 6 receptions for 70 yards and a touchdown. Keenan Allen, however, led the team in targets. He had 11 targets, but he caught 7 of those for 36 yards. So,
I'm going to tell you guys a quick little story about this tight end on here. Steven Anderson for the Chargers.
Caught 1 for 34.
I went to school with his sister.
Really?
Brittany Anderson. We went to Foothill Intermediate School together over there by Mount Pleasant.
Interesting.
He went to Piedmont Hills High School, and then he was a walk-on, I believe. I forgot what college, but that's pretty cool because he's from here. They're from here. So
congratulations, Steven, man. Congratulations. That's really cool. Other than that, I mean, Justin Jackson had 4 targets, caught 4 for 17. And as we mentioned, Mike Williams had 4 targets, but he only caught 1 for 11. And then he had a wide open one where he was burning the whole defense. It was just overthrown. But like we said, they didn't need to do much because Eckler was killing them, and their tight ends had a great game. Jared Cook had a great game. Derwin James had a pick. It's good to see when he's healthy. He's a really good player. It's just, he has trouble staying healthy. In that defense, they had a total of 4 sacks on Derek Carr, and Derek Carr definitely looked frustrated this game. Joey Bosa had a sack. Jerry Tillery had a sack. Kyler Fackrell had a sack, and Christian Covington had sacks. And as far as kicking, Big Zino, I believe, I don't know.
Viscano or something
Viscano,
like that?
there you go. That sounds right. 0 field goal attempts, but he made all 4 of his extra points. And now next week, the Raiders will play against the Bears with Justin Fields as QB1, and the Los Angeles Chargers will be taking on the Browns, both 3-1 teams. So that should be a good game. All right. So that was our thoughts and opinions on what happened this week as far as fantasy and just looking at the games. One thing that's just stuck in my mind after going through all these games is Ben Roethlisberger, man. I feel bad for him. He's having a rough season and it's not looking good, but we keep making excuses. Is it him, or is it the lack of what, everybody's injured? But at this point, I mean, we see some quarterbacks getting it done with a bunch of no names and making them names. So we're going to have to say it's Ben. But yeah, so we'll see what happens next week, week 5. All the best to every team. But as we were mentioning, we're now excited to get into our next little new segment we're going to try out here. So we'll be back in 1 second. All right. So this is a new segment we got. It's called Quick Hits from a 10-Year-Old. And what we're going to do is we're going to run through some of the names in the NFL nowadays and see what our neighborhood 10-year-olds' thoughts on them are. So, all right. His name is Brenton. Brenton. All right. Here we go. What do you think of Dak Prescott?
Bad.
All right. What do you think of Justin Fields?
Great.
All right. What do you think of Ben Roethlisberger?
Not goat.
All right. What do you think of Tyler Heinicke?
Amazing.
All right. What do you think of Stephon Gilmore?
Sucks.
Oh,
Sucks.
all right. What do you think of Jimmy Garappolo?
Good.
What do you think of Tom Brady?
Bad.
What do you think of Derrick Henry?
Sucks.
What do you think of Urban Meyer?
Good.
What do you think of Matt Nagy?
Bad.
All right, and the last one. Well, no, we have 2 more. What do you think of Zach Wilson?
Goat.
Wow. Okay. And last but not least, what do you think of Carson Wentz?
The greatest of all time.
Oh, and there you have it. Quick hits from a 10-year-old. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this podcast this week. We'll catch you all next week. Peace. Go Bucks.
All right, guys, we're done.